Awesome. Real cool Pokemon Showdown. So when I first recorded the video, Pokemon Showdown showed the stats for Hisui and Zoroark being the same as regular Zoroark, but apparently that was just wrong now that we have like the data mine and the information's really coming out. So I don't think it really changes much about the video. We got 5 more speed that doesn't matter in Gen 9 and 5 more damage that might swing something, but the overall strategies are still the same, so I just need to make this quick re-upload. This is going to be your guide to using Hisuian Zoroark in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So competitively, this Pokemon is very strange because same ability, it just has the different typing, which is an absolutely insane typing. It took over 2 decades, to finally see normal Ghost in Pokemon, and it's just weak to Dark. That's it. And then we have immunities to normal, fighting, and ghost, so 3 immunities. At that point, you can't even be mad that we barely have any resistances. So we've talked about this typing when the Pokemon was revealed, and then like potential competitive shenanigans when home transfer finally worked with Pokemon Legends. But because of an event, it's just available inside of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So, wild stuff. What else does it get? It has Bitter Malice. 100% chance to lower the target's attack by 1. So it's an interesting kind of utility move, and because it's a signature move, it has like weird power creep on other moves. So Bitter Malice is effectively chilling water, but you know, with stab for that Pokemon and then a higher base power. Seems alright. It just also feels out of place because, alright, lowering the opponent's attack by 1 is cool, except we are super Giga Frail. There might actually be a neutral hit out there to where even at the -1, we still get KO'd, or at least procced into Focus Sash or something. But the idea is like, oh, against physical Pokemon, you're faster. Bitter Malice, you survive with that -1. Bitter Malice, that's a KO. Now you're just 1+. Maybe that works out. Let's get deeper into the moveset. What in the world? This thing gets Comeuppance. If hit by an attack, returns 1.5 times damage. So another weird thing that we can see with Hisuian Pokemon is that they get to steal a signature move of other Pokemon. We also saw this with the Last Respects. Houndstone isn't the only Pokemon that gets Last Respects. The evolution of Basculin also gets it, and Pandora's box for that one is about to be opened with Pokemon Home Transfer. Now, my gut feeling is that Houndstone is still going to be better like a Revival Blessing Weather team because Sandrush is just so good. Swift Swim for that water, I don't think it's going to be as awesome as having like a Tyranitar just kind of almost solo carrying until Houndstone like extra carries at the end. Even with the extra base stats, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. So that's a thing, and because of it, Hisuian Zoroark gets Comeuppance, which is now absolutely devastating and dangerous when you think about it because of the illusion ability. That if you see an opponent have Hisuian Zoroark in the team select, they could just lead Comeuppance Focus Sash you on any move you try to throw at it with any sweeping Pokemon, and then it's just going to dunk. However, this isn't going to be the strongest thing ever because it's only a 60 base hit points. So Zoroark coming in with that cheeky counter that you see from time to time on like the illusion counter, that's just better because 60 base hit points getting doubled then catches a lot more and then doesn't have the mirror coat, so can't play both sides. It's just kind of like this weird interaction. And it also means like the idea of a utility Zoroark, like Giga Uber 1-for-1 is on the table, and that might be a moveset to consider, but let's go into some other options. Flamethrower, after that we start to see similar coverage to regular Zoroark, so it effectively plays the same. I don't know what wacky world is going to happen where someone brings Zoroark and Hisuian Zoroark on the same team and then tries to play like crazy illusion shenanigans. If you want to be that, you can do it, but the thing is this Pokemon isn't like super duper strong. However, maybe you just inflict enough mental damage to offset the lack of damage this Pokemon has and the extreme vulnerability. Extrasensory, it gets that. Actually, we can go over here and kind of see some other moves this Pokemon wants. Memento. If you Comeuppance Memento, that might just be a set on its own. Maybe you just do this. You try to catch as much. Actually, you don't even need the speed investment. So I don't know, maybe you do something like this, where because of the Focus Sash and the Comeuppance, you don't need to be fast, you're actually getting that negative priority. So you take that, max hit point investment means any attack that's coming your way is then just going to be a straight KO onto the opponent. So now that you're investing your hit points, you can actually KO your opponent with that. If they bring in something slower because we're in a bulky meta, well, now you have the Modest on 120, which feels a bit better, and then maybe some coverage on top of that. And then you can also just go straight Memento onto the opponent as well. And then that's going to be it. But also the Memento might be why you want that Timid Nature, just in case they respond with something that would be faster. So now you're catching everything under 105. You get to Memento it. If you're just going Comeuppance Memento, you're not attacking, so the lack of EV investment might not really matter, or you can like Bitter Malice utility and then go down that way. So again, this is like a pure utility Pokemon. However, it's a 1-for-1 plus that can disguise as anything, and there's some other cheeky ways of kind of cheating this that you can go Taunt. So if you disguise yourself as a Pokemon that would already carry Taunt, and then you taunt them on like setup, it means, okay, now their tank Pokemon is shut down, so at least you're not getting anti-lead like that. If they actually have a threatening amount of damage, you can throw the Comeuppance at them, and then you do the same Memento, whatever. As for damage, do you run the Bitter Malice? Maybe normal type Pokemon while you're out, so you could just go for something like a safe Dark Pulse. Could also just be stupid because a 20% chance to make the opponent flinch. But now the moveset kind of falls apart, but as we talked about, Godlike typing, super frail Pokemon that doesn't hit super hard. So like Zoroark doesn't get an insane amount of usage, which means Hisui and Zoroark going to be in a very similar boat. The Hyper Voice and Shadow Ball. So Shadow Ball is 5 more base power. I don't think it matters. So it's actually just like, yeah, you get to run the Bitter Malice. And it also just kind of makes me feel weird that they didn't give Bitter Malice the 80 to make it just a direct upgrade to the Shadow Ball. That if you are going like Terra boosting Ghost, maybe this actually finds some weird 2-hit KOs that Bitter Malice might drop off on. Or maybe like swing a very frail 1-hit KO that you just really want. I don't know. Hyper Voice, 90 base power, no additional effect. Kind of weird, but also just damage. And that's where things actually get extra weird with the Hisuian Zoroark, because Ghost normal, solid coverage. Like, you actually see some not very effective. It isn't perfect coverage, but it's solid. Doesn't have a lot of super effective hits, but it just kind of hits everything. Ironically, except for Hisuian Zoroark, it's immune to its own dual typing, which is pretty unique. And then King Gambit is a new huge threat in the game, so not being able to hit that neutrally or especially super without the flamethrower. So like, yeah, normal Ghost Fire is going to feel pretty nice, but you can also just run on the normal Ghost and just hope you don't see a King Gambit. Tyranitar, very threatening, been using it a lot recently, just a solid Pokemon, but it shows that like normal Ghost, even though it does have a couple of not very effectives, not bad at all if you just get stuck into that. And then we also have Grass Knot. If there's a non-Terra Garganasalt, you want to hit it. If there's a Dondozo, you want to hit it. We do have some weirdness on like the low kick, and people have like tried to throw out the mixed Zoroarks in the past, so that can do something against like your normal Ghost coverage. We also have Focus Miss. I mean, like, you either lose to King Gambit, or there's a 70% chance you beat King Gambit. I feel like the non-stab Focus Blast into Sand Tyranitar isn't enough to KO, so you gotta watch out about that. And then again, it's just mostly the stats and the power creep make this Pokemon feel pretty awkward. We can also just run some other nasty meme sets on this thing. You go Taunt. You just make this the super Giga Lead. You taunt the opponent, they're going for setup. Now they don't. They're forced to switch out pretty much. That's a free nasty plot. You now have a 105 speed Pokemon that's rocking a +2, which is now very scary, especially if you go like Terra normal into Hyper Voice. That's just KOing everything. And then Bitter Malice for that extra pickup. Yeah, that's where I'm wondering, like, maybe the damage could matter on that nasty plot with the Bitter Malice. If you're running Focus Sash, the -1 doesn't really help you survive anymore. So that could be the Shadow Ball, that could be something else. But then we're kind of getting move slot syndromed, as we talked about. Unfortunately, you can't go fighting Hyper Voice, because then you're just totally immune by all Ghost-type Pokemon. And even, like, weird combinations are still going to be immune by the Hisuian Zoroark. But Ghost Fighting, still quote-unquote perfect coverage minus the Hisuian Zoroark. So that's actually something you can still run on the set, and then maybe that changes it around a bit. So you go Ghost Fighting, which means Terra Ghost. Maybe you keep that Shadow Ball for that. Like I said, the extra damage pump with the nasty plot might actually start mattering. And then that's when you can have the Focus Blast. And it's only there because, like, well, otherwise I'm just dead to Dark-type Pokemon, so we'll swing it. And if you get lucky, fine, then you just kind of win, because it's a nasty plot Focus Blast onto a Dark-type Pokemon. That's GG. So really running the Hisuian Zoroark isn't going to be as reliable as some of the other sweeper carries that we've seen in Generation 9, or some of the old reliables that have been popping up on the Battle Stadium, that you want to really play around the illusion to Giga catch your opponent off guard and then set up something, or do like a really cheeky cheese on the opponent. Like, again, this is a really strong 1-for-1 plus, because now the opponent's like -2/-2, and you're free to set up any Pokemon on top of that. Kind of risky, but also kind of not with the taunt. And maybe you only get the Bitter Malice down, but if it's a physical attacker, again, any setup Pokemon is happily taking a -1 opponent and then running away with the game. Terrestrialization opening up some more options for these Pokemon to find a bit more success, and this is just kind of strong set. However, I would have infinity respect for anyone that can pull this off. Unfortunately, Battle Replays didn't come back. Everyone keeps asking, where's Fan Fridays? I can't bring back Fan Fridays! Game Freak killed it! There's no Battle Replays! Please stop asking, because it makes me sad. I want it back. I have never not wanted Fan Fridays. I have no control. So blaming me for it doesn't do anything. Another breakdown of Generation 9. Nice. And then because we're talking about Hisui and Zoroark, might as well give a little bit of idea for running Zoroark, since they are the same but also do different things. Like, just having a stab dark Pokemon means you're not immune by anything, whereas this has like the weird immunity interactions. And then maybe you can take it a bit further on the Zoroark, because it's mostly just, if you fake the opponent out and then taunt, you're just getting free setup. And because we are in a fissure anti-setup bulky meta, that actually brings a lot of power into the Zoroark. So you do taunt, nasty plot, and then Dark Pulse, the one-shots that you have. Terra Dark just really opens up. Like, Terra Dark means, oh, now we can get rid of that Life Orb and then just always have the Life Orb on our core damage. And then Endure Salac Berry means 105, but outspeeding everything because of +1. Now +2'd with the Nasty Plot. Depending on what's going on with the opponent, like, it's possible to fish for double Nasty Plot in these situations. The Endure kind of gives you that safety, and eventually you just run away on Dark Pulses. So this could be a really fun Zoroark set. Not calling it like super duper reliable always works, but man, this will chump someone, and then it just beats them. We've seen it. I've gotten chumped by some weird stuff in this ugly meta. Spathra just shutting me down immediately, and then the Terra fighting Farigiraf just having a super into everything on my team. So I mean, like, this just popping into the right composition with the right lead prediction, and you ruin a kid's day and you get the win. It's kind of neat. But there's still going to be some, like, weird vulnerabilities and interactions, so showing off the Zoroark set where you just kind of, like, do damage to the opponent. 120 special attack and something like Jolteon, not great. 110 special attack, stab specs, KOing your 60-60. That's how frail you are. It's not great, but Nasty Plot means Hyper Voice then becomes a one-shot on a 65-95, which is pretty good. And then also kind of showing like those Shadow Ball options where, okay, Shadow Ball with the Terra Ghost, boom, boom. You know, we KOing a lot. We hitting it. And then this is going to be the same damage for the Nasty Plot Dark Pulse Zoroark. Not great, only having like one offensive option, but it still has some interesting success, and like 20% chance that if a Pokemon resists you, you flinch them, and then you KO them, and then it didn't matter anyway. So you can still play some meme stuff. Maybe you find that second Nasty Plot, and that wins out on some resisted interactions. And then you're just kind of outspeeding everything. That's the dream. So there we go, guys. That is your Zoroark guide for Generation 9. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all of that cool stuff. I think we found some ideas for an interesting Pokemon that had the random handicaps that we see holding back some regional variants, but still can find some pretty solid success. So if you guys enjoyed the video, hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching. I don't know what to say. I thought Pokemon Home would be out by now, and if you're watching this video after the release of Pokemon Home because you want the best Pokemon moveset content, then I guess this intro doesn't really mean anything, but I want to get the Hisuian movesets out before Tears of the Kingdom, just in case there's like some weird thing where like that content could get in the way. And if this is after the release of Tears of the Kingdom, then this whole 20-second intro is completely scuffed. So this is how to use Hisuian Samurott. And because Pokemon Home isn't out yet, I really hope they don't mess around with the stats, because like this is the data mine. This is what we have on the current Pokemon data, but with the release of Hisuian Zoroark, they changed a couple of the numbers around, so hopefully this is still accurate. But what's going on here? We have 90, 108, 80, 100 special attacks, so a modernized Pokemon of a starter that still has cursed stats, and then low special defense, higher speed than Samurott, so 70 speed, 108 special attack, 100 attack, so effectively flipping the attack and special attack, and then kind of doing some weirdness with the defense and special defense to give us more speed. Alright, so what else does Hisuian Samurott get? We have a water dark type Pokemon, and adding weaknesses with that dark typing, not really that terrible of a thing because you're not really expecting Hisuian Samurott to stick around for too long. Doesn't have recovery, doesn't have like built-in durability or setting up durability. It really just seems like you want to be a wall breaker because 85 speed is kind of a sweeping speed now because Generation 9 is so ugly. Sharpness ability also spices things up because we can just run a wall-breaking cut-style Hisuian Samurotts where like Life Orb, 50% boosted super effective hit, or Terra extra damage on something can get really nasty. Now I have Jolly Nature on the speed, and I guess you can go Adamant because you want to get like the most efficiency out of your nature stats. Also just 10% damage on top of all the boosting we're already doing is pretty nutty. But I just feel like at 85 speed, you fall into something weird. Like you want to make sure you're just kind of catch-alling everything and being that wall breaker because you're not going like hyper speed sweeper. So in case there's like a weird EV spread on a higher speed Pokemon, or if there's a higher speed tier Pokemon that's greeting with the Adamant nature, you can kind of take advantage of that here. And then you're just kind of catching everything. And everything you catch with this Jolly Nature and then hit on these kinds of things is just going to be pretty good. So I think that's maybe the play. If it's not working, if you're still getting outsped, if you're not finding the KOs you need to, depending on the meta, Adamant Nature works, and there we go. Now, what about the signature move, Ceaseless Edge? This is where things get weird, because looking at comparable moves, like, okay, we have the Aqua Cutter at 70, but it can't be higher because sharpness and then, like, boosting into that. It's still better than a Liquidation because base power and stuff on the sharpness. And then I think that means you're afforded the Terra Dark, because you go Terra Dark Ceaseless Edge, and you start getting the damage down, boosted by sharpness, and then it's just negligible compared to the Aqua Cutter. And then, like I said, the plan is you just want to hit super effective hits with the Sharpness Life Orb on Pokemon you're faster than, complete wall break, try to win the game. Seems like you have some niche viability here on the Hisuian Samurott. As for the effects of Ceaseless Edge, we have 90% accuracy. That could screw you over, and that just kind of sucks for no reason. And then setting a layer of spikes. So spikes does 1/8, 1/6, and then 1/4 to the opposing Pokemon, depending on the layers on switch-in. However, like, this lower base power, like, it would have been just better to have this just be, like, a 75 power Dark Stab move that gets the Sharpness proc, and maybe that's all that matters. Because it seems like you're just kind of diverting that damage, that 1/8 of an opponent's health somewhere else, but the opponent has to switch in and also be affected by the spikes, which doesn't really seem to happen that much. And if it's a case where, like, you need to KO the opposing Pokemon in front of you, or else things get really bad, then it just kind of feels useless. But there is maybe the dream scenario where, like, you outspeed the opposing Pokemon, Ceaseless Edge, survive the hit, Ceaseless Edge, that's a KO, and now you have 2 layers of spikes for a decent amount of time. The thing about entry hazards is that they're complete noob traps. Stealth Rock sucks, Spikes sucks, spinning and then having, like, defogging also sucks because, like, that's its own micro metagame and you can't really afford those move slots anymore. So that's just kind of Timmy noob trap gameplay, but in a 6v6 where you're going to get more mileage and more usage out of this, there's also going to be a higher chance that maybe there's a defog or some kind of spinning or something, even though it's all bad. But if you get these to stick, then maybe that kind of matters. But that also means that, like, you have to run Hisuian Samurott to accomplish this, where there could just be a better Pokemon to run on your team, or even a better entry hazard Pokemon, you know, like the Fortress that sits in, maybe depending on, like, the state of the national dex when Skarmory comes out, it's just, like, Stealth Rocks, Spikes, Roost, and then you just have, like, one of the more durable tanks in the game. Whereas Hisuian Samurott, it can get a 1-for-1 plus, maybe the Spikes does something, usually it doesn't, and then depending on the rest of the game state, maybe you just get, like, outsped, revenged, and KO'd, and that's kind of it for the Hisuian Samurott. So there's, like, some weird interactions here, but there is a dream scenario. that's not common, that actually sounds good on the Ceaseless Edge, and because of the sharpness boosting, like, you have it, and you can Terra into it and not lose on the Aqua Cutter, so I guess that's going to be fine. My thought on Ceaseless Edge is that, like, Glimmora gets Toxic Spikes for free, and it doesn't matter. Glimmora does not have an ability, and it's still a super busted Pokemon because you go modest 130 special attack with this weird speed creep, wall breaking kind of thing, and then you just kind of one-shot everything with choice specs and, like, potential Terra types and wild coverage, and then Glimmora's just busted, but Toxic Spikes never matters. And, like, Toxic Spikes is much worse than the Spikes because it can just get cleansed by Poison-type Pokemon, Steel-type Pokemon don't care, the Flying Levitate Pokemon don't care, so, like, Toxic Spikes only accidentally works, like, 4% of the time, and has yet to affect the outcome of a battle for me in any meaningful way, just in case it, like, accidentally works and poisons a Pokemon. So these secondary effect entry hazards still not really showing too much value in Generation 9. I don't think it's going to be, like, that crazy for Hisuian Samurott, but we're going to see how it plays out. As for, like, another moveset on the Hisuian Samurott, just kind of the same idea I had for regular Samurott, where, well, if you Focus Sash into Torrent on a Swords Dance setup, anticipating just getting, like, one shot, and I guess you can even sacrifice the Adamant Nature and then go for something that's going to make you more frail, just to make sure, like, you get hit as hard as possible to activate the Torrent. So I mean, like, Lonely Samurott is even an idea. Max out the speed, get the attack, and then the whole plan is, like, Swords Dance, Terra Water, Torrent activates, and we actually just have more power. So Samurott, 100 attack, Hisuian Samurott, 108 on the attack. Same idea, just better. More speed for, like, follow-up liquidation. Stab Sucker Punch is a thing, in case the Aqua Jet is resisted, and then, like, you still do crazy damage. And then looking at the damage calculations, which are the most important part of the video, I don't understand why people leave just because there's a lot of boring text on the screen. Like, this is where you absorb all of the data, apply it into your games, and then just get bigger brained and better at Pokemon. And that's kind of like the whole idea behind it, is like, you need to lose, absorb this passive information, apply it to matchups that your opponents don't know, and then you just win. Either way, we have, like, how this kind of goes. So we have Bashful Nature, just kind of simulating being a Jolly Nature or something, which doesn't really work into the Iron Bundle. Just kind of, like, showing some kind of matchup-y stuff that could happen. If you go Terra Dark, you do remove your weakness on the Freeze Dry, so we can see Ice Beam still gonna hurt our 90 hit point, 65 special defense. That is not great. That also means that Hydro Pump is gonna be a KO, so you don't have, like, some kind of surprise win here on this. Sacred Sword does have the super effective KO hit. Ceaseless Edge does not have the neutral, even on the Terra Dark, so it's mostly about finding those super effective hits. If we just kind of fill in some kind of other Pokemon, we can see, like, what our damage looks like, and it's kind of that, where it's like, alright, into bulkier Pokemon on, like, with the 90s or something, not finding KO, but getting a solid amount of damage, and that could also just be the case for the Adamant Nature, where it might swing a few things. Super effective Sacred Sword is going to mow down even bulky Pokemon. Now, a problem with Hisuian Samurott is finding the good applicable matchups of common meta Pokemon to see where it just kind of meshes in. And I know that, like, adding in Hisuian Pokemon and also the starter Pokemon and, like, national decks and home shenanigans could get pretty crazy and unpredictable. But for the most part, it's just like, yeah, the Pokemon's either faster and has, like, a super effective hit that gets kind of spooky, or just kind of feels too bulky for Hisuian Samurott to deal with. But there's also a few matchups that shows Jolly is what you want. If there's a greedy Adamant Excalibur, or if there's, like, some weird bulk investment, just kind of not respecting the 85 Jolly max speed because it's kind of the most stupid, outrageous thing, then yeah, you just hit him with the Life Orb, super effective Sacred Sword, and that's it. There's also weird potential trading scenarios where sometimes you survive the Glaive Rush just in case it's, like, Jolly, not Focus Sash, and then you die to your own Life Orb burn. But I mean, like, trading 1-for-1 on a wall-breaking Excalibur that could give you problems, maybe that's fun. Same thing on the Dragonite. Let's go find a good Dragonite, because there's a million of them. Dragonite is also some kind of matchup. Now, they're not really running as much Jolly, but by being Jolly yourself, you are covering for that potential scenario. And then, like, the numbers look kind of weird. So, unless it's Choice Band, wall-breaking Outrage, you're not going to get one-shot. Extreme Speed Terra Normal just sucks to begin with. Now, it will two-shot you, but still, like, if they're doing that, they're just throwing the rest of the game, which is pretty nice. And then Ceaseless Edge can find the 2-hit KO, so there could be like a lot of weird stuff going on. So where like Dragonite comes in, goes for the Dragon Dance, you hit it for 40%, and then you can just 2-shot it on the Ceaseless Edge, and that also means that the spikes will be set. And I guess that's something. However, because of the damage and shenanigans, it looks like you go down to your own Life Orb burn again, but you are coming out with a 2 spikes advantage, so like a 1-for-1 plus, just a different kind on the Hisuian Samurott, and it works into some Pokemon. Now, what about the base Samurott moveset that I talked about, where like you go Focus Sash, Adamant, Torrent, Swords Dance setup into just kind of spamming Aqua Jets, and at the 85 speed, there's like less things that can respond to you with its own priority or Sucker Punch or something, so this could also just kind of work. You're doing a significant amount to the Silvally, and this is on priority, so it stings. And it one-shots Chin Pao, so neutral 80-80, you just kind of win on priority. And then you also have like still some decent wall breaking because you're just +2 running other moves. And then to end the video, we can just do some math, because it's kind of weird, like math is just an obvious objective thing, but the way that like Pokemon interacts obscures it just enough to where people don't really realize what's going on. So like Liquidation, not really crazy on the coverage. What about Sacred Sword? Especially if we have like a super effective hit on that Sacred Sword. Well, remember, this is Torrent, not Sharpness, so we are cutting some damage there. And then Liquidation is just more than a super effective Sacred Sword. And it's way more because we are getting the 50% boost, we have Stab, and then we're also going for that Terra Water on top of it. And it's just a silly amount of damage. So the only time Sacred Sword is better is for 4x super effective hits, or when Liquidation is resisted and Sacred Sword is a super, like a Water Dark type Pokemon, which is kind of ironic. But if that's like not common enough to actually matter, then yeah, Liquidation just there for like the further giga wall breaking now that you're set up. Oh, and I forgot to talk about Razor Shell. So Razor Shell is boosted by Sharpness, which means we're just going to be getting more damage than if we're going with the Aqua Cutter. And it's kind of arguable as to which one is better, because like higher critical hit ratio doesn't mean like you're going to be critting all of the time. And it's not like you're going to be adding a crit item to maybe boost into that. But RNG is pretty nice. But then the weird thing is, you're getting effectively the same damage. Crit deals 50% more damage, and a -1 Pokemon is going to receive 50% more damage. But it's not instant, where it's like, okay, the Aqua Cutter happens, and you're getting that damage on demand. But the Razor Shell is a chance to ramp that damage. And then it's also kind of like against defensive stacking Pokemon, what's better, that if they're going for something like a Curse and you're kind of offsetting that and trading and healing and sustaining and trying to get an edge with Razor Shell, you might win out against that Pokemon. But if they're already set up, or they're trying to set up, it could just be that the damage from the Aqua Cutter with like all of this to where Stab, Sharpness, Aqua Cutter getting a crit onto something, if that just ignores the defenses the Pokemon's coming in with or already has set up, then that could just be like what you need. You're fishing for that crit, higher chance, wins the game, especially on follow-up. Like Aqua Cutter crits, and then you just hit something else and you're good to go. But also Sacred Sword just kind of ignores that. And then that kind of goes back into the core idea of the moveset, where like Terra Dark Ceaseless Edge is going to be your main damage, but you've got other Pokemon that might want to Terra and get more out of it depending on the game. So if Terra is not available for the Hisuian Samurott, then trying to get as much damage as possible with the Razor Shell could be the better move. And there could be scenarios where like Razor Shell, Defense Drop, Razor Shell KO exists where just like 2 Aqua Cutters doesn't, and it's a higher chance in like trying to fish for a crit on one of these moves. So yeah, it's kind of weird there. I guess Razor Shell wins out. And that's kind of it. So, hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching. This is going to be your guide to using Hisuian Decidueye in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So I want to start off with the signature move, Triple Arrows. We have 90 base power, 100% accuracy, high critical hit ratio, 50% chance to drop the opponent's defense by 1, and a 30% chance to flinch. That can't be right. Let's check on Bulbapedia. Something has to be wrong there. Nope, that's the adaptation for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and non-Pokemon Legends gameplay. How? Like, we look at Samurott, and Samurott has to lose accuracy and power to actually just set spikes, and then we get like all of these crazy effects on also a 90 base power move. That just doesn't happen in Pokemon. What? Oh, it's garbage. The stats are pretty much unusable, and that's what this is going to break down. Also, when you think about it, like Typhlosion, not really that crazy. Hisui and Typhlosion, not really getting enough changes. This is tough to work with, so I mean, like, Hisui and Samurot's the best starter from Pokemon Legends competitively? Okay, that's interesting discovery right there. But yeah, we look at triple arrows, and then we look at the stats. Like, what do you do with this? 112 attack, not great. 60 speed is rough, but the more you look into it, it's just straight up worthless. Like, Golden Go, very common Pokemon. You need to do something about it, especially because we have the Scrappy ability. That's very good and not that common. And that's actually like another crazy thing where it's like, yeah, where are all the Scrappy Pokemon? They just don't really exist. We got Flamigo. And then even when you think about like all the other Pokemon that don't get it, there's not a lot. We have Mega Lopunny, and like without that, we lost a major competitive Pokemon with Scrappy, so we need more Scrappy Pokemon in general, and then like fighting Stab into that would be nasty, but Golden Go doesn't even have to like full speed invest, and now they are going like more max speed modest or timid and like Scarf and Specs and stuff, so Golden Go, very common, also getting like crazy meta adaptation, but like it just barely has to do anything to speed creep you, and then you're just kind of stuck being useless. So actually we can show the numbers right here. So 112 speed if you're Adamant max, and then outside of that you're just trolling if you're actually going Jolly on a 60 speed Pokemon just to barely outspeed anything. It's sad. So yeah, 112 speed, 113 is easy to catch, and also that's kind of like a speed tier. I've been saying, like, if you can get 113, 114 on your bulky, bruisery Pokemon, you're in a good place, and Decidueye is just kind of like capped and can't really creep the creep, so it's in bad position. And then like 88, 80, I mean, like, you're going to get KO'd by a lot. I guess 88, 95, but you're grass typing. Your weaknesses are absurd. Hisuian Decidueye is weak to Flying, Poison, Fire, Psychic, Ice, Fairy. Good luck with the opponent not having one of those. Good amount of resistances, but we aren't like a setup tank or naturally bulky Pokemon to justify the speed, so yeah, like, I guess you can survive some kind of random neutral special attack, and also a decent amount of physical hits, because like 88, 80, still somewhat uncommon. You're not as free as a lot of sweeping Pokemon, but again, 60 speed, you should be able to survive something. And then like, okay, so what can we get out of Decidueye? Trailblaze is it, because for some reason, this Pokemon does not get agility. Like, that's what it needs more than anything, especially like if for some reason when it looks like that, feels like it should be able to do agility things and become like a really agile fighter. No, it just doesn't. So the only thing that could save this Pokemon so you could proc everything on the triple arrows doesn't work, because like that 30% chance to flinch doesn't mean anything if you're getting outsped. So alright, like Scarf, what does Scarf get you? Nothing. Like an effective Trailblaze as well. Like it's ugly. And it's so much worse than you can imagine. Like, not only is your 60 speed going to be severely hindered into like slightly faster Pokemon like the Golden Go, even with a +1, if you're Adamant Nature, max speed, Garchomp just outspeeds you. Jolly Garchomp just outspeeds you. So anything faster than 102 also going to have the speed, and it's by 1 point. I think there's an argument that 60 speed is the worst speed tier in all of Pokemon, because you just barely get outsped by everything, and you just like fall into the worst bracket, where any like speed creep, again, for that 113, is just beating you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Unless you troll. But it seems like you're forced into trolling, or else very simple Pokemon are going to outspeed you, and even though Garchomp isn't as common as it used to be, it's still kind of like a silly thing, because people play around the idea of what Garchomp is going to do when it gets any kind of like speed into it. So I mean, like 184, where does that put us? All right, we're above 110, and then we speed creep up to 115. Cool. What does that look like? We can actually just kind of sort by speed, and like it's one of those things, as we go down, as we review speed tiers, commons, like, okay, cool, we beat Persian, Floatzel, and does that mean we're tying Iron Valiant to just add even more mess to this? Great. really cool. So we get a +1 somehow. I'm not recommending Scarf because like then you're just locked into triple arrows and kind of hoping for the best. And then like it's Iron Valiant, and then however those matchups go, now Hisuian Decidueye still losing after a turn of setup to get the speed. So we have Trailblaze, and it's like cool we get Grass Stab on this, but it's not like crazy KO or threatening damage, especially on the 112 attack. And I guess the idea is like you Trailblaze, you get your speed, you combo, you triple arrows, that's a KO, and everything you're faster than, you got that good chance to flinch. If they like flinch into a defense drop, that's kind of the nastiest thing ever, and then like you could just combo out someone super hard. But to get that point, because that 60 speed is very difficult, and then like what else, and like if you don't get that, if you don't get 30% chance to flinch, you just get KO'd. You're kind of using up your Focus Sash to get the Trailblaze, and there's only like very rare and weird setup scenarios where it's like, okay, the opponent is low. You're using Hisuian Decidueye as a revenge scenario, so you can actually just kind of like Trailblaze, KO them, get your speed, Swords Dance into the Focus Sash, and then triple arrows. If you're doing that, you're like going to win the game if there's no priority, but then like priority happens, so you just lose somehow. And then like also faster Pokemon at 116, and because of Paradox Pokemon, there's a decent amount of those in like Scarf Chi-Yu and stuff, so there's kind of no winning on this Pokemon after you do like one of the more risky and hard to find setups. Terra, does that even matter? I mean, like Terra Grass is kind of throwing, and like there isn't enough damage on Trailblaze to actually do anything with that. And then getting all those weaknesses doesn't really feel that good. Terra Fighting is actually just like a solid type, and adding damage into triple arrows is pretty nice. But you have to Swords Dance. There isn't really a world where the jolly 112 attack, even like Terra Fighting, good stab move, is actually KOing anything. As for coverage, I mean, what do we do here? It's like, Leaf Blade, better than Trailblaze, but doesn't really matter because like triple arrows is so busted. Knockoff, non-stab, and then like just a little bit of damage. Doesn't really do much. We got a Sucker Punch, but non-stab, even at a +2 Swords Dance, 112 attack isn't threatening. It's mostly like, oh, I'm gonna go 1 for 1, and then plus a little bit on Sucker Punch as I go down and don't really accomplish anything into faster Pokemon. Yeah, this is like kind of all you can do with Hisuian Decidueye, and it's kind of just like the same problems with regular Decidueye where the stats aren't that great. Regular Decidueye seems to be better even with like this crazy triple arrows, but Decidueye doesn't even get that much play. 70 speed, slightly more usable. 107 attack, not really any different. So I mean, like, I don't even know why I'm making this video. Once Pokemon Home comes out, this thing has to get like completely reworked stats like we saw with Hisui and Zoroark, right? And then 78, 100 is actually survivable. The special attack is a throwaway for some reason. And then just makes me wonder, like, where did all the stats go on Decidueye Hisuian? I don't know. Yeah, I think that's going to be outside damage calculations. This Pokemon has some, like, weird matchups and interactions. So yeah, let's say we do get the +2. We have that Sucker Punch, but even into something like the Flutterbane, it's not a KO. Like I said, we're not going like Terra Grass or Trailblazing much in this situation. I guess the idea is that we might be able to survive some things. So we do the... Actually, no, it's got the Fairy into fighting. So, like, we just straight up lose. Maybe an idea, like, if we're going up against something that has 130-some special attack using a neutral move, like, cool, we survive. But as we talked about, our typing makes it hard to just find neutral moves and survive. Golden Go. Let's see how this matchup ends up playing out. So we drop this down to level 50, we throw down the Make It Rain, and 88-95 means we survive. Also, Sucker Punch doing significant damage at +2, but that's not what it's about. We go Ability, Scrappy Nature, and then we do the triple arrows. And there we go. So yeah, like, that's it. I guess, like, maybe something happened in Game Freak testing where Golden Go starting to take over, but instead of nerfing Golden Go, there was like one mad lad that was just beating everyone with Hisuian Decidueye in the Game Freak testing office because you Trailblaze, even Make It Rain. Now you have the speed over the Golden Go, triple arrows KO. You're set up and winning, boys. Or maybe like Scarf Hisuian Decidueye, which doesn't do anything, right? Man, this just gets, like, more and more rough, because I've been trying to find a situation for Hisuian Hisui. Wow. That... I guess I just had a mini stroke right there. I don't know. Hisuian... I read this, like, Hisuian Hisui. But, so I've been trying to, like, find something, right? Well, Fairy typing means Triple Arrows is going to get resisted. Poison typing means that Triple Arrow is going to get resisting. Any interesting Pokemon that you might need to beat is going to resist you. We have Iron Moth. Well, there's the poison. Gengar. No one uses Gengar, and Gengar gets through. Because, like, poison-type Pokemon, so yeah, it doesn't really do much. Walking Wake. Too fat. Like, you just don't have the 2-hit KO on Triple Arrows if we're just doing something that doesn't have any damage boosting because the 112 attack is too low. Now, if it gets buffed to, like, 122 somehow, then we might have a playable Pokemon, but even then, like, you don't have a reliable 2-hit KO right there. And then, like, the further down you go, you just get bulkier Pokemon or less used Pokemon or stuff that just isn't going to happen. And then, like, yeah, then it just kind of drops off. I guess Hydreigon. There we go. Congratulations. What do we do to Hydreigon? Drop this down to level 50. We KO it. Nice. So, if you get the +1, yeah, you can do it without an adamant nature, I guess. And then, like, you break a Hydreigon that isn't bulky, but we're kind of seeing some bulky Hydreigon, which then survives, and I don't know what happens after that. Game gets pretty weird. So, like, my idea was, okay, so what if you do go Jolly Nature, you run the Scarf, and then you just run, like, discount worse Togekiss. Because, like, 30% chance to flinch, you're outspeeding a decent amount, and then you just two-shot them. So there's a 30% chance you two-shot some Pokemon and get away with it for free, and you just keep doing that. And Scrappy lets you just hit everything, which is kind of cool, and means you, like, insta into the Golden Go. But as we saw, like, the Golden Go actually isn't a 100% chance to just KO it, so that's a problem. And, like, that's it. Like, you do this. And it doesn't work against anything. Also, maybe instead of Sucker Punch, put Sub here. And then if you try to catch the opponent on setup, you just make this work. Like, Sub into setup on obscure Pokemon wins games and will chump people. So, like, this can just steal a win every once in a while, but it's not, like, in any reliable or solid capacity. And I don't really see a situation where you look at the opponent's team and go, ah, yes, Hisuian Decidueye wins here. Like, there's some cool potential. Like, I wish this worked, and I wish this was, like, A tier, but it's not. And, like, all these things just kind of go to waste. A cool move, an ability we need to see more of, just because the stats aren't there and the typing doesn't kind of line up. I guess, like, Terra Fighting. I guess, like, if we actually review all of that stuff, Terra Fighting changes it. Whereas, like, we go Terra Fighting into the walk... Actually, let's go Garchomp, because the interesting thing is that we don't make contact. So, just like regular Garchomp, no tank shenanigans on the Garchomp. Then we go Terra Fighting. And then we go level 50. And if we had a 2-hit KO, there we go. So you have to invest your Terra Fighting onto a Scrappy Pokemon. Sounds cool. And that's why, like, I wish there was more Scrappy potential in this generation. Because you go, like, Terra Normal, Terra Fighting into Scrappy. Like, Terra Normal Mega Lopunny would kind of be, like, the sickest thing ever. But then that's just busted if you got, like, Terra-type Mega Pokemon or something. We actually just kind of two-shot a decent amount here without the resist. Like, even a fat Pokemon, 108.95. And I guess that means we also get the Gengar. It's, like, 30% chance you flinch them into heavier Pokemon. Like, if you don't get one-hit KO'd. Because we have Dragon Claw from the Garchomp. And we even have, like, an Outrage that we can survive. So, like, let's just say, you know, it's not a 2-hit KO. We triple arrows. Maybe we get the crit. That changes the numbers. Maybe we get the 50% chance to drop, and that changes the numbers. So, like, it can work. But it's not reliable. However, I think if you Terra Fighting, the Pokemon becomes fun. And that's all I've got. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching. This is going to be your guide to using Hisuian Typhlosion in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Now, on the surface, this Pokemon looks terrible However, I think I stumbled into some like surprising ideas with this Pokemon, and that is what we're going to be breaking down. So if you enjoy the video, if it helps out in any way, don't forget to leave a like, share it with your friends, and please comment your thoughts down below. Now I will say, Infernal Parade is just trash. We got a 30% chance to burn, double power if target is already status. Like a 30% chance to get a 120 base power move out of this when you don't really have that great of durability, and Eruption is just more damage at full. What's the point here? Like, how do you make this work? I don't see anything in doubles. Hex tech hasn't really been that big when it comes to Pokemon anyway, so it's like, this is its own baked-in Hex that also does less damage, so, like, Toxic Spikes, and then you bring this in and you one-shot your opponent's team with it. No, that doesn't work. It just doesn't happen. And even then, Toxic Spikes is garbage. And with a Pokemon like Lamora that gets it for free, it still has 0 value. So, you don't get into a position where you set this up. There's not like a lot of reliable thunder-waving, phasing Pokemon to kind of spread that through. I don't see why Infernal Parade actually, like, is a thing. And then when you look at the stats, is this downgraded Typhlosion because it loses a speed tier on the 95 compared to 100? And then you get 10 special attack out of it, but that's also not a lot. We get 11 total stat points from that. Is that damage? It's a 7% damage increase, but does it matter? Actually, kinda. So that's where we get into the most informative, which also makes it the most, like, boring part of the video to people, because people like they don't stick around for the damage calculations. They click on, they see either like an out of context moveset or something that isn't fully fleshed out, and then they just go, oh, that's it, that's how this Pokemon works. Or they get their confirmation bias or something. But like, this is where like things get weird. So Iron Bundle, common Pokemon, not like the greatest damage analog, because this is well under average for special durability, but you can actually outspeed it on a Choice Scarf. And you can go Modest Nature, so it's like, you're getting that little bit of extra damage, then you're getting that little bit of extra damage a bit more, and then you have Eruption for, like, crazy damage, and you one-shot an Iron Bundle. Now, I didn't really talk too much about Choice Scarf Typhlosion in my just regular Typhlosion moveset guide when it came out after the Terra raids, but, like, maybe that's viable. However, it opens up some, like, really weird discussions about Pokemon. That's what Generation 9 has done. Generation 9 has been so brutal, so ugly as a metagame, and even like going into late Generation 8, it's like making me rethink my entire competitive thought and theory about all of competitive Pokemon, going back to like even Generation 4 or something. Because why didn't Typhlosion exist, even though you could just like Scarf Eruption everything down? But no one really, like, even with Stealth Rocks being somewhat more common back then, or like more popular, even though it's still really trash and no one should have ever played it ever, it seems like you set up some Stealth Rocks damage, and then, like, Scarf 100 speed just kind of catches everything. And even with, like, proper 2-hit KOing setups, like, how come people didn't build a team around Typhlosion to where, like, Typhlosion comes in, plays hit and run on, like, low cleanup sweeping Pokemon, and then, like, you just lose the game when it lands? That never happened to me. I never came up with the thought to use it, and it seems viable in Generation 9 in some situations to build around. But in a more, like, power creep game, why wasn't this happening in other generations? Couldn't tell you. Some weird stuff. But then, like, yeah, if you're just running this where you're like, you go Choice Scarf, now we also have, like, Terra shenanigans into damage. This looks incorrect. Like, level 50, level 50, we have all that. The numbers didn't feel that way when I was going into regular Typhlosion, so, like, yeah, apparently that 10 special attack kind of matters. The 95 speed actually doesn't matter. That's the surprising thing. Like, you look at this and you go, it lost 5 speed. It drops tiers. It's just worthless now. No, you actually still have the same Modest Safety, which kind of just keeps, like, snowballing and scaling damage in a weird kind of way. Because we outspeed Iron Bundle, which is common, and we catch everything but Electrode. Electrode isn't even played, but I'm saying, like, 150 speed. Nothing really has more than 150 speed, so we can go under that. It's like, okay, we got Dragapult. We outspeed Dragapult on Modest 95 Scarf. Something feels bugged about that and wrong, but, like, no, that's just speed tiers. And then, like, other Pokemon, gotta look into those matchups, kind of see where it goes. So, Jolteon. Drop this down to level 50, and that's KO with Terrafire. It's KO without. And that's kind of the weird thing, because this is why I don't consider Scarf Typhlosion to be real, and also why it didn't really exist in previous generations, because, like, yeah, back in Generation 4 or 5, Jolteon was a premier sweeper, but then you cut down to 109 special attack, you actually, like, lose the reliability there. Now, Jolteon will have Focus Sash, and every Focus Sash Pokemon will kind of screw you over. Like, Choice Specs Jolteon seems to be more of a thing. So these, like, evolutions inside of how Pokemon are played, kind of weird, and that is the diff. 7% damage, and especially more when you get into Terra Fire, like, oh, we actually just get into a comfy, like, KO range on a average, slightly above average, specially bulky Pokemon. And then just kind of keeps coming together, and then you Terra Fire on a Scarf Eruption. Why was that never viable before, but it's suddenly viable on Hisuian Typhlosion? We gotta check some other Pokemon with this. Alright, what about the Fluttermane? Interesting. Like, that's above average special defense once you calculate it into the hit points and stuff. Baxcalibur. Interesting thing about Baxcalibur, people think that its passive makes it immune to fire. No, it's vulnerable. It's a KO. And if this was regular Typhlosion, it's actually still a KO. Scarf Typhlosion viable, and I kind of overlooked it because it's been so historically trash. Like, if it's worse in less power crept generations, how does it feel more viable now? I mean, like, I understand meta change and stuff, but there's so much power creep, there's so much, like, better analog Pokemon, even, like, comparing it to Chi-Yu or something, but the Eruption offsets the Chi-Yu passive? Where are we? What is happening? What are we doing? I guess we're just running Scarf Hisuian Typhlosion. Like, the idea initially was Specs, and you just wall break with it on more damage, but Typhlosion beats that, because you want to get, like, the Flash Fire Typhlosion to then scale way more damage, and then you Terra Fire Eruption on Choice Specs Typhlosion that gets, like, slightly better modest speed tiers. No, turns out you lose speed, gain some damage, and then you turn this thing into the same idea on Scarf Eruption. And because Terrassalization's like a new mechanic that gives you that extra 30% damage that Giga super mattered, because that's Eruption. If you take a hit and your opponent doesn't get KO'd, you lose all your damage. But now if you secure that KO, that's huge. And you don't even have an ability on Hisuian Typhlosion. Frisk actually might be good though. Like, that's the initial thought. The initial thought is like trash, trash, trash. But Frisk could give you, like, the incredible, valuable information that people don't really use it to scout that much. If you go into a Paradox Pokemon that shows their booster energy, then it kind of gives it away. And then, like, you're losing Frisk. Like, because, like, oh, Frisk tells me the booster energy they already consumed pretty much. Some Pokemon already, like, Telegraph. But, like, if you see, like, oh, that's where their Choice Scarf is. Oh, that's where their Choice Band is. Oh, that's where their Focus Sash is. It now just, like, tells the rest of the team. It kind of sets up how you're going to play through the Typhlosion as a win condition, especially if you're investing Terra Fire into it. And, like, if you use this as the right kind of utility, it actually just has value. Now, Blaze is still an option because, like, let's say you Eruption, you don't get the KO, they hit you, it's super bad, and then, like, you're just kind of sitting on no health, but you're still alive, so you can Scarf in. That's where the Blast Burn happens. Blast Burn Blaze, that's the opponent's last Pokemon, especially in 3v3, where, like, that can just be the finishing blow. Maybe even KO resisted Pokemon with, like, Blast Burn, Blaze, Terra Fire, Stab 119 special attack. Hell yeah, that's super great. So maybe that just wins, and then this is, like, your good out, especially on Blaze, but it's also good out even with Frisk. Now, our survivability is below average, 73, 78, a lot of neutral hits with, like, 100 base power or more, especially Terrassalization, just KO us and there's nothing that can be done. Like, this is a sweeper's dream. A sweeper's dream is they outspeed us, hit us with their strong move, and we can't survive. Like, that, it's gone. So we keep on top of that with Choice Scarf. We hit the frail ones with the Eruption and just find it. Terra Fire kind of tips some of the interesting damage numbers. Infernal Parade is trash, but, like, the Stab Shadow Ball, like, kind of doesn't do it. And that's also where you can kind of see a lot of this drop off. Like, okay, Water-type Pokemon, anything that resists the fire, it's over. And there's a good amount of things that resist the fire. Assault Vest, non-super, is going to be pretty rough, which also reminds me of a damage calculation. Bro, these damage calculations, like, what did I put in wrong? Assault Vest, max hit points, King Gambit, dies to the eruption. I know, like, the numbers make sense, but I've never seen... This is even the wrong Typhlosion. I've never seen the damage scale like this, and Bulk King Gambit survives everything. I don't know. Like, Terra Eruption, that's faster than everything, just that good on 119 special attack Modest. And we know this because 130 special attack Glamora with specs is just nasty, and it doesn't scale into the 150 base power. Or use its terrestrialization to, like, double down on stab. Oh, it's just strong, especially if you build around it and dedicate it, and that doesn't seem like what this Pokemon is worth. Wow. You try to find words when this happens. This is going to be your guide to using Wordeer in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. These stats are so unfair to Stantler, I don't really know how to put it into words, because Stantler has never been usable since there's hundreds of Pokemon with better stat distribution than Stantler. If you want a special attacker, there's infinitely better. If you want a sweeper, if you want a wall breaker, if you want anything, you can find it elsewhere outside of Stantler. I mean, Eviolite, even as an option now that it can evolve, doesn't really work with these stats. There's just better pre-evolution Pokemon as well. Stantler has nothing. So we have Wordeer, and then they screw it over with 105, 105. Like, is this just so some Timmy that doesn't understand Pokemon is playing it like Red and Blue version for the first time can use this thing because it's a new flashy Pokemon for Pokemon Legends Arceus, and then use any move and be successful on it, even though it's impossible to be successful on this Pokemon? I'm not sure. We do have an upside in the normal Psychic typing being really good. Just weak to Bug Dark. That's it. You also pick up immunity. You don't have any resistances though, so everything's neutral, which is kind of weird because in Pokemon Scarlet, Violet, or also like modern Pokemon meta, you're not really seeing like too many needs for resistive hits because there's just a super effective hit coming. That's really all that matters, or a very powerful physical, or not physical, very powerful neutral move. 103.72, that's new. I guess we start like getting into some weird ranges here where, yeah, we don't get immediately blown up by every physical hit out there. And then we also have a signature move. So like the signature move has to save this Pokemon. 70 power, 90% accuracy, 100% chance to raise the user's defense by 1. That's all we get on a 65 speed Pokemon. So there's no argument here where it's like, okay, you outspeed the opponent, you get the defense boost, they don't KO you, and then like you two-shot them with the Psy Shield Bash and now you're just unkillable? No. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna do some spoiling right now because there's Pokemon like this that exist. 130, 140, 105, 80. The defenses are just, every stat is better except for special attack and speed, but when you're talking about a 65 speed Pokemon, that doesn't even matter, and you're not utilizing the special attack, and even then, like, hybrid mixed Pokemon have always been fraudulent, so this is just disgusting, and this is also disgusting for different reasons. We have the Intimidate ability, so it's like this thing doesn't even get an outrageous ability with like some kind of outrageous signature move that makes it a very niche pick but can take over a game kind of thing. Nah, you Intimidate, so you lower their attack. And you Psy Shield Bash, so now like you're physically indestructible. And then you can't do anything. It's super unfortunate. So if we are to put together a moveset for Wordeer, what do we have? As an old school normal type Pokemon that's kind of like leeching off the Stantler moveset, we just have a lot of stuff. And I'm like, okay, maybe the Eviolite Stantler, like, I don't know. If the opponent has only physical Pokemon, I feel like Garganasalt is going to be better. Or any physical dedicated tank than doing something like this. Like, this can be neat. I guess you have, like, the slightest amount of viability. But you can't phase the special attacker under any circumstance. And also just kind of feels really weird having the stats like this. So then we want to go Impish Nature because Psychial Bash is physical, but doesn't really matter. And then do we get Recover as, like, a normal type Pokemon or a normal into normal Psychic type Pokemon? No. So, like, you do this and, like, Rest, and then Sleep Talk, and then you need something for Dark type Pokemon. Kind of, maybe. Technically, Mega Horn exists, but we're going to be seeing, like, a lot of dual type Dark type Pokemon, so Mega Horn might just be neutral at the end of the day, which I guess is better than being completely immune. Facade has that stupid thing where you can't, like, Rest Sleep Talk it, which would be busted, but come on, it's Mega, or not Mega, it's modern Pokemon. We should be allowed to do something like that. And then nothing else really, like, adds up or makes sense too much. And I wish this Pokemon had, like, more utility options, but I guess, like, yeah, you just have to put this here to, well, not that. Then we got Psychial Bash. As for Terra typing, Pure Normal is just solid. But we're not getting anything out of it, but also it's like, where do we pivot here? Do we just, like, pivot into a Ghost type Pokemon, and then that way we can eat a Fighting type move, and then still be supered by Darks, which we're kind of weak against on just having the Psychial Bash, and then Ghost type Pokemon, which we also can't really hit that well. There's probably, like, some kind of, like, moveset, combination here, and this also just goes into deeper Pokemon theory that I was talking about before Pokemon Scarlet and Violet came out, where I'm like, alright, what is best blank Terra type for best blank situation? And then you can kind of, like, mix it into a whole new idea of move typing theory against the cast of Pokemon. There's actually something optimal here that, like, splashes into most Pokemon. No one else really got into that, and it's been too much of a mental burden to, like, super duper solve. Do we go Confuse Ray because it's meme? And then, like, maybe they eventually just, like, KO themselves. Problem is, like, Dart type Pokemon runs a day. But there is one layer of type theory that I have solved, and that's maybe you don't need to worry about having a mono stat Pokemon or mono type, like, offensive move Pokemon, because either they don't bring a Dark type, and then you're actually looking really strong on something like this, or they do bring a Dark type, and you just make it to where your other two Pokemon are only meant to deal with that, and special attackers, like, special tanks that can remove Dart type Pokemon extra effectively, and then Stantler hits the field, intimidates a physical Pokemon, Psychial bashes them twice, Rest, Sleep Talk, Psychial bashes some more, maybe gets the Confuse Ray in there, they're not allowed to play the game, and by the time their last physical Pokemon comes in, Stantler actually is winning, and that's kind of it. Like, that's the most you get out of this. Actually, I do like the Body Slam, thinking about it. Like, you don't get a lot of play on the Body Slam, and it does feel weird. It's like, ew, Ghost Dark are going to immune us, but Ghost Dark aren't really a problem. So, Body Slam, that paralysis chance on top of it could really help out. Maybe that's where we put in the extra point in speed. And then you just need, like, the fattest special defense tank out there. Fortunately, Blissey exists. So, like, if they bring a special attacker, you go into Blissey, start setting up on the Blissey. Eventually, you sack off the Blissey into their physical Pokemon. Stantler comes in, and you do something. Maybe. Same idea on the Wordeer. Let's actually see, like, how the Eviolite plays out. Wow, that's actually a bit surprising. So I have the Close Combat Moonblast here against an Iron Valiant, and then, like, just kind of, like, showing, like, okay, we're seeing some kind of strong hits. This isn't, like, choiced 130 offense, but we still survive those because we find, like, these weird ranges in the 100 plus the 70-somethings, and the Moonblast, even though we're not investing into it, the 103 hit points kind of carrying us. There's also probably something extra optimal to where we have, like, okay, we have 107 combined here. What if we cut this down to, like, 148? Then I need to go to Pokemon Showdown, just kind of make sure we get the most optimal numbers at level 50. Because, like, yeah, it's hard to know, like, every EV breakpoint at level 50. Then we go into Special Defense, 109. Ooh, I got it. Alright, and then we go 108. And then, like, maybe we can break this up a bit more because of those hit points. And that brings us to 105. But also kind of, like, balancing it out. So, yeah, actually, it's just kind of weird. So we go 0, 2v2. Actually get, like, 2% durability if we mix it up a bit. So, do that. Probably fine. And then your Wordeer can, like, survive some special hits and then do nothing after surviving special hits. Alright, now we switch this over to a Stantler, which, even despite existing since Generation 2 for over 20 years, has no moveset possible on it. Go Eviolite now, and then this is going to be kind of like a different idea because the hit point gap isn't as big, and then go to level 50. Now we do have like the close combat here doing double damage, so that's not as fair of a comparison. Wow, like Stantler just... Oh wait, that's Enigma Berry. Wow. I 100% clicked Eviolite. So Stantler taking slightly less damage just with the Eviolite. Oh yeah, and we also need the Impish Nature. So actually, it's going to kick that over kind of a bit. And it kind of shows like, alright, physically, yeah, it's like a pure physical dedicated Pokemon. We do alright, and it's not like, oh, Wardeer is just tankier with the 103 hit points. So the Eviolite Stantler has something. Then Wardeer can run leftovers. Wardeer can run some kind of other item that's going to help it out. Maybe when Moringa and Keyberries come out, like, there could be something with these Pokemon, but that just doesn't happen right now. And you have, like, these other weird options where it's like, oh, I can Calm Mind, while also being strong physically, or, like, strong against physical attacks. Why couldn't this have been special? Why couldn't there have been, like, some kind of switch around here to where you can use a move that gives you the opposing defense, and then that also kind of stacks up? Like, this would be nasty if Psyshield Bash was a special attack, and then it's like, okay, I just one Calm Mind, one of these, we're now +1 defenses, and I can actually be someone threatening on damage, and depending on the Pokemon I came in on, I have no problems whatsoever. No, you don't even get that. I don't know if you, like, you don't stack up, you don't scale it fast enough for Chesto Resto to matter, and just kind of like the same idea. So, like, you get Move Slot Syndrome otherwise, you can Body Slam, slow the opponent down, and then Rest Sleep Talk is just kind of the out for this game. Unfortunately, what do you do into Dondozo? You lose the game. And that's an extra big problem, because if you have a Blissey and they bring in Dondozo, you lose the games. So 2 of your 3 spots in Battle Stadium are going to just make you lose to Dondozo, which means you need an anti-Dondozo Pokemon that can survive, while you have like an Eviolite Stantler or a Wardeer on your team, and then like the game might play out alright. The interesting thing though is like normal, not a lot of like prevalent normal type Pokemon, so this destroys Houndstone in like the wildest of ways. So that's kind of neat, and that's about it, I guess. Like, you look at the moveset and there's some kind of like cool tech potential where it's like Trailblaze on the Stantler, but again, like, you don't have enough towards like, okay, I max out speed, max out hit points, I Trailblaze, somehow survive, and then I start like snowballing on Psyshield Bash. No, it doesn't really work that way. And then that means the most you have is a 95 attacking Pokemon, and for some reason Wardeer lost an insane amount of speed, even though it's an evolution, so like this absolutely did not need to happen. None of this needed to happen. And then like you could have just gotten more out of the Pokemon. So it's like, yeah, 105 Pokemon, most likely uninvested, but even if it was, even if we like use the base stats to do something like this and then like Trailblaze it out, there's at least 24 Pokemon that do that better. 4 if you're counting like Flame Charge strats. Maybe 5 if we just kind of include anything that can +1 a speed and then pull some shenanigans later. So yeah, that's what I mean, like, the moveset, there's nothing really unique here, except for the Psyshield Bash Intimidate. There's also, like, just physical tanks that exist in the game. This might work. I think this is possible to win a game, which means the upgrade is Stantler is no longer completely useless, it's just bad. And you can do the same thing on Wardeer to where you're initially sacrificing durability because Eviolite Stantler is just tankier, but you get more special defense reliability, so maybe there's something that doesn't immediately in the game. Like, you can tank a special hit, Body Slam, they get paralyzed, and then, like, maybe you outspeed into a Psyshield Bash, and then they get full paralyzed, and then you win. Like, that's possible where it isn't for the Stantler. Actually, no, because it means the opponent just, like, not attacking, and Eviolite 65 will still survive, so yeah, I guess it's saying also because people don't have basic comprehension skills to break down what I said, you run that on the Impish Nature. You can use leftovers. I'm not really like too sure of an item, just some kind of item. You can meme a Bright Powder. That's actually pretty good. You can go for an Apricot Berry. Because, like, if you are Chesto Restoing and you just take, like, a very powerful special hit, predict it into the rest, and then just, like, have +1 special defense as your Psy Shield bashing, that's going to be pretty good. And that's about it. So there we go, guys. Hope you all enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching. This is going to be your guide to using Kleavor in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Finally, a Pokemon with workable stats. 135 on the attack is pretty good. 85 speed means we're actually in like a pretty common tier here. Because I was looking at these like more powerful offensive Pokemon. Yeah, Excalibur hanging around 87 speed. Haxorus sub 100. Dragonite actually on that 80 with less attack, so that's kind of weird. Less bulk. We also don't have like the shenanigans of multiscale, but kind of showing what we're working with on a pretty good attack. But then Pokemon like Salamence don't see play with 135 attack and even 100 on the base speed, access to the Dragon Dance. So it's kind of weird when you get into this, but at least it's viable. At least those are Pokemon you have heard of and at least seen a couple of times in battle. And that's also where we get into some weird Pokemon damage philosophy, because the game skews physical. It's why we have Intimidate, but we don't have an Intimidate for special attackers. Also, there's generally going to be higher attack stats and higher defense stats than special attack and special defense. So what this means is like special attacking Pokemon are actually going to be more potent around 130 than we see with like physical attacking Pokemon. However, there's other things that go into play, so let's break it down. Like the Sharpness ability. It's so broken to just get 50% damage, and on the Pokemon it goes on, they generally have a lot of slicing and cutting moves, so it's just free 50% damage, whereas we used to look at Sheer Force as something insane, like, wow, yeah, I don't care if my move doesn't have a 10% chance to do an effect anymore for a free Life Orb that also negates Life Orb burn? Amazing. And it also effectively invalidates Sheer Force and Swarm, which can also be a really good ability if you kind of like play on that edge and you work around it and you get those free stats. Or you just go Sharpness, Stone Axe, that's a signature move, and then you can go X-Scissor, which also works with Sharpness. And now you just have everything for free on a 135 attack Pokemon, and we haven't even gotten into an item or Terrestrialization yet. Okay, signature move. This is where things get weird. So, Stone Axe, 65 power, 90% accuracy, sets Stealth Rock on target side. Now what's really weird is Samurott has the same thing for Spikes. 65 base power, 90% accuracy, Sharpness as an ability. It's so annoying because Scrappy and a lot of other abilities don't get enough like play or usage on viable Pokemon, and then Game Freak for Generation 9 went, yeah, let's just give a busted ability to 4 Pokemon. And not really expanding on like ability usage outside of that. Also, Samurott 108 on the attack, which makes it harder to use compared to the Kleavor, and the same 85 speed. So even in the realm of Hisuian Pokemon, we just have like straight crazy power creep. And I talked about it in the Samurott guide with Glamora that Toxic Spikes is so useless that having an ability that gives you Toxic Spikes for free doesn't matter. Toxic Spikes will still have no impact in like 99% of Pokemon battles. It's crazy. Stealth Rocks at least affects every Pokemon, but the Church of Verlisify is that entry hazards are bad. But in this case, it's like, well, we're just using a move that's better than anything we have access to, because Rock is terrible. We have Rock Blast, which I mean, like, you kind of cheese it into decent base power, but it's still not crazy reliable. Rock Slide is just low base power, useless for damage, and then Stone Edge has the inaccuracy. So like, what do you do as a rock type Pokemon? It's very bad move access, and then Sharpness is just going to make it like the most powerful, good rock type move that also sets Stealth Rocks. All right, that's viable because like it's forced into being viable. You need all of that. You need a typing that doesn't have any better access. You need an ability that gives you 50% damage for free on top of Stab to make Stealth Rocks maybe alright. We also have the Bug Rock typing, and that's pretty good. You think Bug and Rock together, and that's going to be like one of those magical Pokemon that has 7 weaknesses and is completely unusable? No. Rock, Steel, Water. 3 weaknesses, not great, is manageable. Again, we talked about how Rock is terrible, and you don't really see it too often. So it's mostly just going to be Steel and Water threat. Yeah, again, that's manageable, and we can like terrestrialize into Bug, which again is a surprisingly good defensive type. Now, it is better if you like pivot off of something that's like weak to ground or fighting into Bug, not going from like Rock Bug to Bug, but some of those things where it's like, oh yeah, you're not completely ruining your typing if you want to kind of get access to something, like if you're going Grass or Ice, which is not really a viable Terra option. Now that's a long setup just to kind of explain what Cleavor is, but we need to do it to understand what Cleavor does. So yeah, we just kind of want to play into that sharpness, and that's where it also kind of gets awkward, because Focus Sash, it's free, it's obvious, you get your guaranteed agility, 70, yeah, you're gonna get blown up by special attacks. Even 70-95 is a perfectly achievable neutral KO range for a lot of offensive Pokemon, so you're going to get hit. And then a super effective hit, yeah, there's no chance you survive one of those. So like Agility, Focus Sash, if they don't have priority, well now you crush things, right? Let's look at the damage calculations. So doubling our speed gives us a lot of interesting interactions. Adamant Nature is 274 speed, which means Iron Bundle gets outsped with a lot to spare. So if you're going like +2 on an 85 speed Pokemon, now you're like creeping into Scarf ranges on other Pokemon and like +1s and stuff. That's where like the speed tiers get nonsense, and you generally don't see that as much in Generation 9. So you're just kind of covering for everything, which means maybe you cut off some of the stats and then like try to get a little bit of bulk in, but that doesn't make sense if you're going Focus Sash. So you can go like more bulky and find a different item that you want to use, or yeah, you just make sure you're now the fastest Pokemon in the 0 priority bracket, and you wreck. So we have Adamant Nature, Sharpness, X's are 130, wait, what? Okay, so here's another weird thing. Since the Pokemon Home update hasn't happened and all the Hisuian Pokemon haven't come out, the stats are kind of weird, because we saw this with Hisuian Zoroark, that when it launched it actually had like different stats that were better. So I'm thinking like this is the initial data mine of the game, and then like in the recent updates of Pokemon, it's actually updated to the true values. So I'm wanting to say like this is going to be the release, and it's all like updated and cleaned up after Hisuian Zoroark in Pokemon Showdown has it, I hope. And then we can just kind of like tweak around as needed. So it has like 5 more attack and 5 less special defense, which is just a straight buff and has no impact on the Pokemon's performance whatsoever. So it's like, okay, if there's that and Pokemon Showdown is accurate, we should be good releasing these guides early, and we can see the damage. It's not a KO on something like the Iron Bundle. Again, we're like trying to like find these outspeeds and stuff. Terra Bug then makes it a KO, because we're just putting so much damage into it. So that's what you need to do. You just go Terra Bug, and then you use Sharpness, and then you wreck everything, especially if nothing can touch you, depending on the speed bracket. And if you're going up against a setup Pokemon, you just get the free agility, and then you can like coverage out or do things against it. Like there's combos here to where if you don't have the KO, you go Stone Axe, then X-Scissor, and now you just have the free Stealth Rocks to then help into your damage calculations more. Night Slash is going to help cover for some well, not vulnerabilities, but just some resistances inside of Bug. And it is kind of weird, like, how in-depth we can go on Cleavor with this moveset breakdown, where it's like, who's going to use Cleavor? Like, I mean, I guess it's going to be good, but it doesn't seem as blatantly broken as a lot of Pokemon introduced in, not even just Generation 9, a lot of recent generations. Like, you look at Toxapex and you go, oh, that's just the filthiest thing ever. And it takes, that's it. You go Stockpile, anyone that doesn't go Stockpile is just trash the game, and then you've effectively broken that Pokemon for no work. With Cleavor, if you go into the deep dive, you can kind of, like, unwrap it and figure out like all these actual interactions and then optimizing it into an S tier Pokemon, because it might be that. So Bug, resisted by a lot, and that's just kind of like the offensive typings and interactions with Bug. Weird typing where you don't like realize how much resists it until you're in that position, but when you're in that position you realize Bug is bad, so you never use it offensively, and then you forget how much resists Bug. So you do need to build around that. And I don't think like you even want to go Terra into something else. You just want to make it to where if I'm hitting something neutral with Cleavor, which is kind of a decent amount of the meta, you just win the game. And then we can like add in some of the other things, Bug, Dark Rock. Looking better. We're still resisted by a few things. This is not going to be like all the not all of these Pokemon are in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but it's not good when like Iron Valiant, Iron Hands, Great Tusk, Tinkaton just come in and resist us. So like Fairy type Pokemon with an extra typing on top of that make it kind of tricky to just function. I also didn't really think it was possible to have a moveset where mono fighting just resists us. Now, there's not a lot of that, but still, it's not ideal. And then if we go back into Cleavor's moveset, it's like, alright, let's get rid of Night Slash for something. I guess at that point, you just go close combat because you're at 1 hit points and you're super outspeeding everything. So this doesn't really matter. And that might be better, but then Ghost-type Pokemon can still be very problematic. Like, you want the Night Slash because you're going to see 7 Golden Go before you see, like, 1 Fighting-type Pokemon that can give you a problem. There's also, like, some interesting things like Focus Sash Thief, but you just never see that actually applied in a Pokemon game, and it's even worse on Cleavor because you get less base power, and you also lose the 50% on sharpness, so you just run this and hope the threats are not meta, or like the resists are not meta. Now, I wanted to take a look at a few more damage calculations because with our speed, with sharpness, we are a wall-breaking Pokemon, so we need to see what happens against a 252 just fat tank of a Pokemon, and two-shotting it is where you want to be because you're outspeeding a max hit points, max defense invested Pokemon pretty much every time, even with like uninvested speed or low weird invested speed, even though we're probably still going to be running the same set. If you go like Choice Band, then wall breaking, it also gets kind of crazy. It's still not a KO, so that's also kind of like the give and take. I'm like, does Choice Band give you any extra ranges? Actually, kind of, if it's like a max hit points, max attack Pokemon that doesn't have full defense investment. So actually showing a pretty competent wall-breaking Pokemon, if you just go max attack, max speed. There's some things that can get weird, where it's like, oh, Skeledirge just hit you with a Will-O-Wisp, and then you drop off your damage, and maybe you like lose some of the KO ranges. But even then, like, this is really, really nice to look at, and then you have the bonus effect of the Stone Axe on top of 2-hit KOing just some of the tankier Pokemon, and you can still X-Scissor other tanky Pokemon. Now, we can also see the limitations of our coverage and also damage ranges, that we have Baxcalibur, a pseudo-legendary Pokemon, 115 hit points, 92 defense, uninvested. Actually, we want to go level 50 because damage calculations are slightly more skewed offensive there, so we get a bit more damage to show. But even then, it's like, yeah, uninvested this doesn't get neutrally KO'd by Bug X-Scissor. That's not ideal. And if we don't have a super effective hit on a similar kind of Pokemon, well, hopefully we just don't get KO'd. But then, that's where the benefit of our moveset can come into play, that if we set Stealth Rocks while using Stone Axe on like some kind of revenge scenario, we can actually start finding some ranges where X's or Stealth Rock damage calculations matter. Now, that is effectively the crux of Smogon, but in no way is it an argument against me where it's like,
you can't say that entry hazards are bad when it's working for your moveset right there, that the plus Stealth Rock's damage calculations are valid.
Now, the problem with entry hazards and Stealth Rock damage calculations that the trash players at Smogon can't understand is that it's not a neutral game state. You have to give up a turn to make it happen, so you can't just automatically factor it in to, oh, this Pokemon's busted because of that. And even then, in most damage calculations, the Stealth Rocks aren't really going to matter. So you're effectively just handing your opponent a free turn for something that might amount to an 80 base power move spread out over multiple Pokemon over the course of a battle. And if it's like a more bulky meta where Pokemon have recovery, Stealth Rocks just doesn't matter at all. So really, the only way Stealth Rocks can be viable is if it's on a pretty good Pokemon, and it happens for free as the secondary effect of one of the strongest moves in the bracket. Wait, I already said that earlier in this video, and that just further proves it. But what else can Cleavor do? Because in looking at sharpness, just to make sure I'm not like forgetting an obvious move or something, Fury Cutter is affected by sharpness. Fury Cutter is actually a dangerously broken move, especially in Generation 9, where it's a slower meta game, where if a bulky Pokemon can stack it and start one-shotting and not really be too threatened, and that comes online faster because of the sharpness, we might be onto something. So when I'm talking about a wall-breaking Cleavor where you're running Choice Band, you just need Fury Cutter, because on your max damage usage, you're at a 160 base power that's getting sharpness, 50%, Choice Band, which is an effective 2.25 damage modifier, and then Terra Bug. It's unreal amounts of damage and base power to where things that resist you still get mollywopped. Alright boys, who wants to see how Pokemon damage calculation spaghetti works with low base power moves and terrestrialization? If we click on sharpness here, we can see it affects the Fury Cutter, but not the Bug Bite. But then, if we go Terra Bug, they end up at the same amount of damage. Now, this is a quirk with terrestrialization to where low base power moves actually reach a floor. It seems to be 60 base power, but that also kind of overrides other things going on. So because Fury Cutter is initially going to 60 with sharpness, going into the Terra means like you hit that 60, so you're not finding the other boost. But if we go 80 on each of these, we can then see the damage numbers change, because this is going from 60 to 120, this is going from 60 to 80, because now it's 80, now it's not hitting that floor anymore, so it's becoming a regular move. That's just kind of some weird stuff, but we can look at the damage calculation into a Dondozo. Max hit points, max defense, defensive nature, one of the fattest Pokemon out there. Let's also drop this back down to 40. Let's also show some other comparison and see how the matchup plays out. So a really good thing about Fury Cutter is that it's not an attack buff, so it bypasses the unaware, which is big into the Dondozo. So it also kind of shows like our first Fury Cutter is going to be pretty buffed, but then damage is going to level out. So it depends on like when we find those KO ranges. So initially goes into 40, then we slam the 80, and like Dondozo is feeling it, and we can just like scale on the Dondozo and just win. And now we just have too much damage and resistances don't matter. So like the ideal scenario is that a tank Pokemon or a slower Pokemon than you gets in your way, and then you go Fury Cutter, take the hit, Fury Cutter, and then like now you're just at max damage against theoretically the rest of their team, depending on like how the matchup goes and what sweeping Pokemon they have. But also, because 135 attack is so high, EVs, it makes a difference, but like if you're doing that much damage, like you're one-shotting Dondozo on 100 attack EVs, which means you can actually split some bulk, and that opens up potential on the moveset. Now, this also opens up some weird stuff going on with the game. So what happens if we're Adamant +1? We get outsped by Iron Bundle by 1. So we actually want the Jolly Nature +1. If we can find like an easy and free +1, then this might actually mean something. It also means we might have some like EV weirdness to play around with, and then it makes me wonder like, has anything this audacious ever been done in Pokemon before? We actually have like 200 attack and 200 speed, and then the rest goes into hit points for some kind of like really wacky moveset. So that's kind of like what I'm trying to build up here. Let's also make sure we can get the optimization at level 50. I don't remember what that breakpoint is. 204. It's like, what happens if you go 204, 204, 96, and they just like find a little bit of extra durability for free, as well as crazy speed tiers? So Trailblaze giving us damaging +1 actually opens up a lot of play on the Cleavor and a lot of like weird stuff you can do. So at the 204, this with a +1 outspeeds Dragapult. So that's kind of nice to have. Maybe you creep that because some things are trying to creep the Dragapult. Would be cool to just outspeed and one-shot everything. And then that means you maybe open up some hit points. So you can do something like this. Maybe you drop on the damage because Jolly Nature instead of Adamant is a bit more significant. But you can find like extra durability somewhere. I mean like 3 hit points. Will that ever matter? Maybe not. Does the speed ever matter? Maybe. I don't know. Do something. Again, that's where we just kind of fall to like 204, 204, 92 again. If you're getting outsped by weird things, like weird +1s, if you are not surviving, then like you can tweak as needed. Like I need more damage. I actually have enough damage. I need more survivability. You have options. You can develop this depending on the meta, and it gets pretty interesting. So then like Trailblaze, Fury Cutter with the Lychee Berry, you just kind of open that up, and if you get snowballing, it's kind of over. And if the opponent just has like slow Pokemon left, get the Stone Axe down for that extra little bit of damage. It's going to help into your Fury Cutter stacking. And that's what I mean. This has options. This has options to Wall Break and Sweep. And this could be the S-tier moveset for Cleavor that has like the highest effectiveness against every opposing team composition. Or maybe you just want to have a Wall Breaker. Like if you just need a Wall Breaker on your team, use the other slots to just dedicate beating anything faster than 85 speed. and then you just come in and clean up, like, their 3 disgustingly tanky Pokemon with Choice Band Fury Cutter, like, that's also good. And as we kind of opened up, it's like, yeah, you can be bulky enough to also feel tanky against those Pokemon, and you're still wall breaking as effectively, especially once you hit that, like, 160 power. So there we go, guys. The deepest dive into Kleavor to kind of make this an S-tier Pokemon that can handle a lot, and also prove that Fury Cutter is not a meme, and all those trash players mocking Fury Cutter and my Fury Cutter, like, theory crafting and stuff, they've always been wrong, and they're more so now than ever. But that just kind of it, like, people that refuse to watch my content are deliberately making themselves worse at Pokemon and gaming, and it just doesn't make any sense, but that's society. Ignorance and being wrong is just more fun than the truth, and that's why everything sucks now. But hey, at least Kleavor doesn't suck, so hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching. How am I expected to be able to play Pokemon when something like this exists? 130 hit points, 140 attack, 105 defense, 80 special defense. No significant drawbacks to this Pokemon. It's not like a high hit point, high defense, low special defense, so it has vulnerability. No, this thing eats special attacks, while also being a very potent defensive Pokemon, and it has one of the highest attack stats in the game. So we can sort by attack, and there it is. You don't really have to go that far. It's on par with legendaries, straight up restricted Pokemon, and then terrible nonsense like Palafin and Slacking. So we have a comparable Pokemon with Iron Hands, which actually is, like, about as bulky and can pull some shenanigans. But the thing that makes Ursaluna even crazier is that Guts is a very good ability, and then it also, like, makes Ursaring viable in its own weird way because you have Eviolite. And that makes me wonder why people aren't just rocking the Eviolite Ursaring right now. Like, does it work in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet without Pokemon Home Transfer? I'm guessing not, or else it, like, should have been seen. Here we go. My first idea was, let's go to the trivia on Bulbapedia to see what happens. Ursaring, Stantler, Hisuian Quillfish's evolution requirements, as well as Scyther's evolution into Kleavor, are all programmed into Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and are even affected by the Eviolite item. So the methods are turned off, preventing the Pokemon from evolving, but it seems like Eviolite is still functioning and programmed in. So was it just, like, completely forgotten because Pokemon is completely fraudulent and also dead in the West, and it shouldn't be on me to make every single Pokemon ever viable or get crushed by, like, creative Japanese players? You guys need to be able to pull off something too, but I guess there's not really any motivation without Pokemon, or not Pokemon Home, without battle replays, so it all seems like a mess. But this and this are very, very similar, and we can use damage calculations to figure out how similar. So, Ursaluna, Adamant Nature, interesting kind of defensive split that we can get away with, max on the attack, because we want to get as much damage as possible, find those one-hit KOs with our Guts, and we can see that Moonblast from an Iron Valiant with a Life Orb is going to be doing 47%, Close Combat is a KO, but we're not, like, trying to see what we survive against. It's a damage comparison with the Eviolite Ursaring, which is slightly less tanky. Now, that means Ursaluna just gets a free item and gets to be much more tanky or have much more utility or find some extra damage on, like, a Choice Band or something. But this is, like, just playable with the eye test and means it's, like, slightly more tanky. So if you're just kind of playing that, you're pretty good. And then why not just go, like, Rest, Sleep Talk, and then you can just kind of run whatever 2 moves and Terra type that you want. Going back to Ursaluna, probably wants to Terrastalize. Good amount of weaknesses here. Grass is, like, kind of common, kind of not really, so I wonder if you just go, like, Terra Water. You know, just do the default Terra Water, don't have to worry about anything. Terra Ghost also seems kind of like an interesting play on this Pokemon. Just kind of shift around now. You have 2 weaknesses, and you can find some good coverage on it. But my idea being, like, well, with Rest, that's going to activate Guts, and then if you Sleep Talk, you now have, like, a 130 Pokemon getting the 50% attack boost, and that can get pretty strong. And Ursaring, being an old school normal type Pokemon, has outrageous coverage, just a rainbow of options to choose from. That's also going to go into the Ursaluna. So let's just kind of explore this idea of Rest, Sleep Talk. Who even knows for, like, the item here? Life Orb feels like it does a little too much damage. If you're not running Rest and you're just going offensive, Assault Vest could just like 2-hit KO every Pokemon while being extra durable. But I guess when Ting Lu exists, and maybe that's kind of like another thing where Ting Lu, comparable on the bulkiness, slightly more bulky, especially with the Vessel of Ruin, doesn't do as much damage, but still kind of similar, especially with like the ground typing. So you come in on some fat Earthquakes, then you can just open up your coverage into whatever you need. And that's what I mean, like, we even have the Thunder Punch. So, Flying type Pokemon, bad with Earthquake. Thunder Punch means we hit them. Kind of feels like an awkward roll. It's like Sleep Talk into Thunder Punch. Doesn't really matter. But if the opponent can't really KO you, then you're probably going to be good here. You can also, like, Terra into something else. Terra Dark also works. So you can do just, like, really ugly stuff where you go Crunch, Terra Dark. Even though, like, the Terra Dark doesn't really shift around your weaknesses to something crazy, you can just have this, find that damage, get the extra damage. That's not where that's supposed to go. And then also have Bulk Up. You can go Bulk Up. This Pokemon gets Drain Punch as well, so Terra Fighting. Fighting is a solid typing that doesn't have to worry about too much. This can get immune by Ghost-type Pokemon, but then you do this, and, like, I guess no matter what you roll, it's gonna feel alright. And actually, yeah, even, like, that's kind of crazy. Like, you rest, and then you Sleep Talk, but because you're slow, you take the hit, and then you Drain Punch, and you get some of that health back, and then it just kind of, like, guarantees the next rest into that, and then your Guts 150 Adamant Pokemon anyways. Which starts making the damage calculations look pretty wacky. Like, Silvally is the 95-95. If you one-shot this, you're doing great. But that's for, like, a lot of different damage setups and stuff. This is just what happens when you scale into the Guts, and you're just throwing 70% onto any Pokemon, or onto bulky Pokemon. So you're two-shotting them, and then that means you're healing roughly 50% of your health back. That's kind of crazy. Also, it's kind of a weird thing to where not investing into the hit points means you get a bigger portion of your hit points back while taking less damage. So more defense hit point theory into EVs, that gets kind of complicated, but should make some sense right there. We just did Cleavor. So let's see what Cleavor looks like, because we're going to be hitting it neutrally on 70-95, and, like, dang. That's just damage. And we only have mono weakness on fighting stuff, and we saw that, like, fighting is actually something Cleavor can't deal with. So these interactions just start getting wacky. How about this? We just absorb Iron Bundle, and then we one-shot. Now, because it has a low amount of hit points, we don't get a lot of our health back, and something like the Hydro Pump is going to do significant amount of damage, but this is Choice Specs. Choice Specs, if it lands the Hydro Pump, is doing 2/3. We heal 1/3 of that back. And then we just KO'd Iron Bundle for free, especially if we, like, jabate them on that fighting Terra. So, like, yeah, you get a good shift on a weakness here, and then you can just kind of run it. Now, I guess there is the caveat that you do have to Sleep Talk into the Drain Punch, and if you kind of scuff that, it doesn't really go too good. But even then, without the Guts activating, we can just one-shot it and then sleep if we need to. So that's some fun stuff. And then more of my Pokemon move Terra-type theory that just seems to be ignored is, what if they don't have a Ghost-type Pokemon on their team, and they don't have a likely Ghost Terra? And then you just use this as your 6th slot, and you just go Bulk Up here. And now if they don't have a Ghost-type, like, what can they do? If they're not immune to this, they just lose. Eventually they get, like, bulked up on. If you're running that, you can probably go more Special Defense. You can even go Special Defense Nature. So careful. And, like, what can they do about this now? And maybe because you're even bulking up, like, okay, 60 into 192. If we have a Beneficial Nature's 211, but we get more damage off of our first bulk up, and then we just get free stats wherever we want it. So careful Nature. That's probably just, like, cracked. Now, one thing that's gotten crazy with me about this game and how it interacts and stuff is that there's a lot of Pokemon where items just don't really feel like they make too much sense on it. Like, I guess you can go Leftovers, and if that swings some kind of damage calculation while asleep to get the clutch Wake Up into rest, and then have, like, another chance in case you get unlucky, that can be pretty good. I've always considered Muscle Band to be a noob trap item, but when you have just 140 attack, and even if we're not playing like bulk up shenanigans, you want that 10%, because that's like a 90% hit into a 99% hit. That's kind of like swinging and making things a bit more spooky for the opponent. I don't know what KO ranges it finds, and Life Orb definitely finds more. Actually, since we're going to be like focusing on the Drain Punch and the Terra fighting, we can even go for like a fighting plate, fist plate, but the belt? Yeah, black belt. No one's ever used that item. But I mean, like, reliable 20% when you find this, now that's KO ranges. That changes the game. Okay, it doesn't change the KO range onto a Pokemon like Silvally, going from like 70% to a little bit more than that, 20% more than that. But, yeah, it's like kind of like these weird option ideas. Or maybe the Muscle Band kind of ticks over your other move enough towards like, oh, if I crunch and Drain Punch with the Muscle Band, that just kind of 2-hit KOs everything, and in case where like Muscle Band wouldn't, or you want that like extra little Drain Punch, because if the opponent's at 20%, Drain Punch is only going to be able to heal 10% of their health, so like Drain Punch Crunch, it's going to be fine in like some situations. So I mean, like, you can just kind of go down and see like all this weirdness. If Moringa Berry gets released, oh, that's where things are going to get nasty, because then like, yeah, now you can just have full defense invested Pokemon finding special defense, and then like bulk up or iron defense Moringa Berry combos kind of get out of control. There's just like a lot of interesting ideas that can be run here. Citrus Berry could be like extra wild. It would be very specific on a Citrus Berry. Like, your first hit has to hit you for 40%. You immediately rest. Now you're at full, and then you're sleep talking for that bonus damage, and then maybe like one of your turns you're asleep, Citrus Berry procs, keeps you alive, etc. And then you can snowball. Bright Powder, always just meme and clutch, and just gives you that chance. Quick Claw, Sleep Talk, like Quick Claw Rest Talk has had interesting potential for me, because like sometimes it just is Giga Clutch on the Dondozo, but then sometimes it like activates when you want to take the hit and then rest, and then it like kind of screws you over. So that's something to consider, and yeah, it's a thing. Alright, so that's a lot of theory on some just Ursaluna nonsense, where if the opponent can't do anything about it, and there's a decent chance for that to happen, you can just kind of skate your way to a free win. But then like Assault Vest Ursaluna can just rock up and dumpster everything. Some speed creep considerations might be needed, because when you get into a King Gambit scenario, that could get a little ugly. And then like, yeah, King Gambit is a comparable Pokemon, but less tanky. And like, King Gambit is just rocking and being one of the best Pokemon in Generation 9 with that Guillotine. But then like Ursaluna kind of just can do the same things, but on coverage, where, okay, we have this like crazy attack stat, maybe Guts procs, if not, Bulletproof can be kind of cool. I don't know if a Nerve is that populated yet, but like, you run this, and then you kind of have all the coverage that you need to just dumpster anything. You hit a super effective hit, even without the Guts boost, that's going to hurt. You have Terra to maybe expand your coverage in some kind of way, or augment something. You wouldn't with the Drain Punch. It's like, you can just maybe run it back with the Assault Vest, max hit points, max defense, Adamant Nature, just to kind of round it out. And now you just don't die. You're a King Gambit that can Drain Punch, and also Terra fighting into the Stab Drain Punch for additional effect. Maybe there's something else here. I guess the maybe unfortunate thing is we're slightly too slow for like Bulldoze to matter, to where we need plus or minus 2s instead of 1, and even then it's not really great on the 50 speed, so that's not really too much of a thing. But I mean, like, Avalanche Payback on such a slow Pokemon, maybe you just go for the deliberate underspeed, and that's going to be something else. Which one is relaxed, right? No, it's defense. Brave. Alright, so yeah, you go Brave Nature, this, and then you just two-shot everything, while being very difficult to deal with. Super effective hits can become a one-shot. If you don't get the numbers on it, then lose whatever on hit points, because that's efficiency. tech it into attack to hit like meta damage calculations and stuff, and then you win, and then you can Terra Fighting into the Drain Punch and just win more, and then you're just winning. Or you Assault Vest, or you Choice Band, to where you like extra one-shot something. The Guts is also kind of interesting, where if like you do find some kind of status, or you like trick, or like you cheat into a status somehow, because like you see, oh, the opponent's gonna maybe Will-O-Wisp me because they have a Skeledirge out, go into Ursaluna, absorb, and just get like Mondo damage. Now this is like extra Giga Nasty. Or worst case, you're like a Choice Band 140 attack Pokemon that's still like one-shotting things on stab. Especially with like the Earthquake or Terra Drain Punch and extra bonus damage. So yeah, like you can get away with a lot of really stupid stuff here with or without your ability activating. And that kind of makes Ursaluna a bit extra dangerous. And if it does like find a way into getting some kind of status, then it's just kind of crazy. So there we go, guys. Ursaluna, yeah, it's busted. Duh. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching. Basculegion, we are in for a video because another Last Respects user has entered the chat. And that's where things get insane, because the Houndstone Revival Blessing strategy is one of the most complex and awesome in all of Pokemon. You gotta watch my videos about it. This is like the only strategy in Pokemon that I've ever seen where you actually have a theoretical 99% win condition. You just need to find it. You need to get on that thread, and you need to play perfectly to preserve the win condition. And if done correctly, there really isn't a battle or team composition you can lose against. And it gets even more complex. Like, you can just do Palmot, Tyranitar, Houndstone, and like win every game. And if you make like another 3 Pokemon to use that might just like ignore running the Last Respects Houndstone, and then also play into like different team comps and go Galaxy Brain, 12D Chess, Grandmaster. But can Basculegion do it better? So we have 2 to 3 main differences. Swift Swim instead of the Sand Rush. We also have an extra typing, so we can just get more damage if we can't use the Last Respects, which can be helpful. And then the stats. So it's mostly going to be about the offensive stats, 112.78 versus 101.68. Basculegion hits harder and is faster, which is pretty important when it comes to sweeping. And then the bulk gets kind of weird, because like 120 hit points, less defenses. Less hit points, high defenses. So it kind of like averages out, which means you get more stats to play with on the Basculegion, but it means you're also locked into the Swift Swim. The thing about Houndstone is Tyranitar is an absolute monster. If you play Bulk Tyranitar, you just can even like KO Pokemon and make it to where Houndstone is in a 1v2 scenario at the end, or remove Houndstone's biggest threats really easily. And then like the Revival Blessing on Tyranitar means a big threat Pokemon comes in again. And if you're running like bulky Tyranitar, because what I did was like max hit points, some attack investment, and then like some defense into an Assault Vest, and then you can Terrastalize your Tyranitar if you need to. Also, you do want to go like Terra Ghost Houndstone for the big damage. But if you need to, you can just kind of like run this, and that's a 3-hit KO. So if it gets revived, it can take a hit and then deal a hit back, and then just be a problem for the opposing team. So like Tyranitar, very strong. What about Drizzle Pokemon? Well, Drizzle, kind of in an awkward situation. Let's go and pull that up. We got Pelipper. That's it. You can only run the Pelipper for the instant Drizzle, and it's not like as nuts of a Pokemon. You can do like Tailwind and Focus Sash and then like try to get some water damage, but it's not the heavy damage kind of Pokemon that we expect with something like the Tyranitar. So your support is going to be worse, but your carry is going to be better. Also, we can like go into the deeper damage calculations. So the funny thing is, I just ran Houndstone, and because I started the strat in Series 1, I didn't really consider like how it's going to interact with the legendary Pokemon, you know, the cursed objects or whatever, as well as the Paradox Pokemon. So I just kind of did like arbitrary speed and arbitrary distribution on that, and you can still run Adamant Nature. But yeah, like 204 speed, Adamant gets you to a really high speed tier, and then it like creeps on top of the creep, and you just get to outspeed everything, unless it's like a booster energy speed on the Flutter Mane or the Iron Bundle, but then it has no offensive pressure, so you're probably fine. and just like a lot of like crazy interactions going on with this. So yeah, like you can just get a fast enough Houndstone, and then you can play around and tinker with those numbers and just get like some extra bulk and some fun stuff. So for Vascular Legion, you can just do it with less and then find some extra stats, and then you just have more attack even on Adamant at the end of the day. So you can just kind of pull it together. What about support though? Because my initial thought is like Houndstone is just better and might still be just better, especially because Ghost also doesn't open up extra weaknesses, and that could maybe be the problem. So we're going to have to see when this Pokemon lands and when we finally get rule set D, and then like it all comes together and if people can make it work. But also, what about alternative Pokemon? I'm thinking Vascular Legion versus Houndstone just straight up on like the weather setting users. It's just kind of like Vascular Legion loses and Houndstone's still the GOAT. But maybe you can just like build a rain setter, prankster Pokemon that just actually makes it better. And like maybe you could even do this the other way around to where like, oh, this with Sandstorm also causes Houndstone to carry more effectively, or maybe can be splashed in situations where Tyranitar is very unfavorable into the opponent's team or opponent's potential 3-pick, and then the game gets even more crazy. But like, my thoughts here on Rain Dance is like, you have complete control. You can Thunder Wave the opponent's Iron Bundle or initially faster Pokemon, because the speed is mostly about the Palmot. If Palmot gets like outsped one shot because Electric Fighting has a good amount of weaknesses, that could just be GG right there. And then like, you can actually function a Houndstone because Last Respects gets 150 power, and then you're still Life Orb, and you can Terra Ghost into that, and you're pretty much trying to like fish for the extra revivals. But it goes very bad if like Palmot ends up just getting KO'd or doesn't have like the proper chances to Revival Blessing. So I mean, like, yeah, you can actually set this up with the Klefki where it's like you Thunder Wave the fast Pokemon, you can set Spikes, which breaks Sash, which is also a problem for like one-shotting on the last Respects, and then you can just like Foul Play Chip, which can also do something to Focus Sash or just have like threat onto the opponent. This could get awkward if the opponent's just like, oh, I see your Klefki, it's going to be like all status or mostly status. I'm just going to set up like Calm Minds on it, or Bulk Ups, or Iron Defenses or something. So maybe that gets bad, but also could be like you could just bring in enough threat and sack off Pokemon, revive them, and then still set up to where it's like Houndstone will eventually get those KOs, and it will eventually sweep, unless the opponent is going pure Iron Defenses. So actually that's kind of the thing, like Foul Play is good against Swords Dance, not Iron Defense. You don't have a lot of ways of shutting them down, like Torment might not be fast enough. Side note, Game Freak removing Toxic on every Pokemon has shown to be a horrible decision that has just made more bulky setup possible instead of removing it by removing like Toxic on stall Pokemon. And I think that can be shown here, where like if Klefki had the Toxic, it could just shut that Pokemon down and just wait until Vascular Legion gets in. And yeah, like this does lack the damage, whereas if opponent's trying to set up in Tyranitar and Tyrantar's drilling it with super effective moves, then could be better for your team if you're running the Houndstone or something. I don't know, like how do you mix this up? Like, what if you just try to go Calm Mind, Draining Kiss, Klefki into certain compositions? Like while they're setting up, you're setting up. If you can tank a hit and then like hit them with big Draining Kiss, like, oh, Klefki becomes a mini pseudo carry, and then when it eventually goes down, Palmot comes in, Revival Blessing, switch into Klefki, get your Rain Dance, if it's a safe switch. If not, you sack Palmot, Rain Dance, you have 3 KOs, Last Respects is at 400 damage, and then you pop off and you do the Last Respect things. And then we've seen from the videos, again, you need to watch all the Houndstone videos. There's even like some more recent ones as well. This one, you just like pilot the strategy, and it's absolutely insane. So it's kind of like finding the way of making that work. I was thinking like, oh, what about Light Screen Reflect, because that's very supportive on the Klefki, and then some kind of other move, Thunder Wave. Again, like there's so much setup in the game that if they get the download on this, you really can't threaten them any way. And then like you switch Palmot, and then like you Double Shock and you nuzzle them. And actually no, that's what the Encore's for. Never mind. It's one of those things like, okay, you Encore a Pokemon that's Iron Defensing. It doesn't get to play the game, but you also don't get to do anything to it, and that gets kind of awkward until you get enough KOs, enough damage on the Houndstone to make it matter. So like, yeah, the Encore on Palmot is that extra tech, and then it gets kind of complicated into how you pilot and set that up. But against a more offensive team, you want the Light Screen, you want the Reflect, and then Palmot can Revival Blessing when Klefki finally goes down, and then you switch in the Klefki, and then like Klefki can go down again, and then Palmot Revival Blessings again, and then Klefki comes back up, and it's got Prankster Rain Dance, so it doesn't matter. Then your Last Respects on the Basket Legion is fully stacked at 250. And depending on how you dance around the rotation, you might have that extra like turn of Reflect or Light Screen, and because we're getting all the like bonus stats, we can go Light Clay. And the trick about this one is like, you don't need and you don't want the Damp Rock. We learned this with Tyranitar, that Tyranitar with Houndstone, if you actually have the Smooth Stone, it can just get to where like by the time you're done Revival cycling and Houndstone comes in, you didn't refresh the sand, so now you just have like one turn and then you get bodied. So you need to keep as much speed as possible for this Pokemon. And with Light Clay, it kind of doesn't matter, because like, yeah, Light Screen Reflect stays up, Palmot does a thing, finds a way to stay alive, Klefki just like keeps surviving and keeps landing, and then you get that guaranteed rain set, where it's like, okay, whatever happened, Klefki gets revived, Palmot goes down, and then you have Prankster Rain Dance, and the opponent can't respond to it. So you Rain Dance, get KO'd, ready to sweep. It just feels like one of those weird things where if the opponent reads it and ignores you, there might be a line of play out for them. And then, like, it could get sketchy, which is why I'm just saying, like, hey, make it uncomfortable on the spikes, foul play. And then the Thunder Wave is going to keep your Palmot in that, like, where it can keep reviving. And eventually, Basket Legion is coming in and it's strong enough. Also, the benefit is Waterfall gets bonus damage. It has stab, and it's also going to be raining, so you're getting even more damage on top of that. And that's when, like, Waterfall just finds neutral KOs, regardless of the state of Last Respects. Puts us into a weird situation for coverage. Water Ghost, niche Dark-type Pokemon, just kind of wall us out a bit, and unfortunately, Ice doesn't cure all of the problems, but it's really only, like, Hisuian Samurott. I'm assuming Greninja is going to be coming into Rule Set D as well. So you have that. Alright, like, hopefully not too much of a problem. But also when you look at these Pokemon are pretty frail, so you can just neutrally, not even neutral, resisted one-shot them with the Ghost, Last Respects, that's all pumped up and stuff, as well as having the outspeeds against them. And I guess because you're pretty much always Terra Ghosting with this strategy, except in like the rare situations where you want to go Electric Palmot and then just drill an opponent with Revival Blessings if it's something like a Corviknight, then actually you don't have the water weakness, so it's not as much of a drawback and it's a raw strength. So yeah, like you can make this work. I just think it's just different. And I think we're going to have to see how it plays out, how it works into the meta. Or maybe you could just be funny. Maybe you could have both on your team and you could just, again, have a 100% theoretical win rate by just having both Last Respect strategies at the same time, a random 6 Pokemon that doesn't do anything, and then you just kind of run what you think is more necessary. If the opponent has a more offensive team, the range strat's going to succeed. The opponent has a more defensive team, then that's when you can kind of use Houndstone with utility and then bring more bruisery, bulky, immediate pressure on the Tyranitar and then make it harder for the opponent to set up. Now, that also means you can run a slightly different Tyranitar with Taunt. That way, like, the opponent is not setting up against you whatsoever. It means you can't run the Assault Vest, so you will have to find, like, a different defensive item. Like, Leftovers might keep you around enough, especially if you like the Revival Blessing and playing around with that. It cuts down on your coverage, but it doesn't mean, like, just offensive, spooky, breakdown Tyranitar if you kind of see that potential setup on their team. And if you don't, then you just run the Klefki Basket Legion and you win anyways. So that could just get, like, extra cool and extra crazy. And it just keeps making me more and more sad that there's still no battle replays. How are there no battle replays? The greatest feature of Generation 7, for some reason not even introduced in Sword and Shield DLC, not finding its way into Generation 9, and no one cares about the game because of it, because there's no way of, like, showing off your strats or showing off your big brain or doing anything cool in development. And even rental teams do nothing to accomplish that because it's all hacked Pokemon and it's all, like, mono lame strats as well. So, like, with this, I want to see what other people can do with this. I can't carry the burden of being the best Pokemon battler and having to do everything. You can't. It's impossible. Which is why Fan Fridays was so awesome and battle replays are so great. But yeah, in summary, I think Houndstone is better than Basket Legion on the surface if you get really creative with the tech or find like something outside of an ability setting Pokemon, you might be able to take Basculegion further. And then also like these other attributes could just become arbitrary. Now you become like unstoppable, become uncounterable. Maybe there's some weird priority things that might actually need to be covered for, but if not, like, dang, this is just kind of nasty, and I'm all for it. Now, I really want to say only play Last Respects because it's so beautiful and cerebral, especially in 3v3, but there's other ways of running Basculegion as well. Like, we have adaptability, and we also just have nonsense. Game Freak. This has to be deliberate, right? To where Jolly Nature +1, so you go Scarf, outspeeds Dragapult. And you also get the adaptability. And you get like Terra on top of that, and just have like crazy amounts of damage as well. Why did this Pokemon get so many amazing abilities? Like, it even has Mold Breaker. I don't think it really does much with the Mold Breaker because you're not running a utility Basculegion that's like, oh man, I can finally get through Garganasalt and Golden Go. But like the adaptability has some workability around it as well. And you can still run the Last Respects. You just sack off 2 Pokemon, and like maybe this is where you have some weird stuff going on to where a utility screen setter can come in as your second Pokemon. Like you just go all out offensive on your first Pokemon, bring in utility for your second Pokemon, set it up for the Basculegion, and again, now you're just like outspeeding practically everything. You still have considerable amounts of damage, and it's ignorant what this Pokemon does. Like, maybe that's what makes it better than Houndstone, in that, like, you don't even have... You can just invalidate how the game works. So, Last Respects, it's going to get +2 from your 2 fainted Pokemon, so, like, you're at 150. And then, Max Attack, Jolly Nature, Adaptability, Scarf Item, we just KO Iron Bundle. And there's no play around it. And that's before we even go Terra Ghost. Do we even go Terra Ghost at that point? Because, like, the adaptability... and the also, like, double stab scaling kind of drops off. Like, that almost seems incorrect, but I guess that's just how it works when you're doing the adaptability with trying to go double stab Terra typing. I don't know. This means that, like, you just crush neutral effective, or not neutral, resisted hits as well. However, you might want the water. That way, if, like, you know there's a normal type somewhere on their team, you can go Terra Water, and then you have, like, adaptability, lower base power moves that still do crazy amounts of damage. Oh... Adaptability cuts a lot of damage, and that's because it just counts your type. Much like how if you Terra off of a type, you lose that typing's benefits. Like if you go from Tyranitar's rock typing into just like a non-rock type terrestrialization, you now lose your special defense bonus, and you become vulnerable to Sandstorm. So I guess like adaptability works the same way, which makes sense. So you don't get like triple stab, triple adaptability. And I think that's also a case for not having the Ghost. Because, yeah, it means, like, if you need to peel off the Ghost and then funnel all of that power elsewhere, you can. Wow. But then you just somehow have no damage. Terra Water. Yeah, see, like, the water adaptability interaction actually just doesn't give you much. So you could even do something like a random Terra Blast, where it's, like, Terra Blast into a different Terra type for all that adaptability boosting to find, like, 2-hit KOs onto above-average bulk Pokemon. But technically, if you go water, you're also in a decent position because that waterfall flinch is no joke. So you get like the Terra Water, waterfall flinch, 20% chance you 2-tap a Pokemon for free because you're outspeeding everything. 120 with this, even though it's low defenses, is still like enough natural bulk to be survivable. It's like you're 2-hit KO Pokemon. And if you're 2-hit KOing everything faster, you're 1-for-1+ with the Terra Water. And again, the damage calculations don't change too much off of the Terra Ghost with the powered up Last Respects. I guess it's going to come down to practice. Like, if you have Terra Water and your Last Respects ain't doing it in some situations against like very bulky or resistive Pokemon, maybe just all in on the Last Respects. Or again, you change your team composition to really build into that. And I mean, like, even then, like, you could still have the Rain Dance adaptability for the Waterfall, but at that point, again, like, Swift Swim just feels better because then you can, like, change up your items and get more damage from the item that way and still have, like, extra speed. Like, you just get more stats with the Swift Swim than the adaptability. We talked about the coverage a little bit. You get a couple extra things like the Psychic Fangs. You can Crunch, you can Zed Headbutt. Wave Crash, I think, puts too much recoil on you. Unless, like, for this moveset, if you just need to finish off like one last Pokemon, you need to make sure you have the damage. Yeah, fine, you outspeed them and you one-shot them on a Wave Crash with adaptability. Maybe Terra Water, maybe not. And then GG. Like, if it creates the GG scenario, it's perfectly fine to run. So it'd be Wave Crash and the Waterfall. And like you just tech shenanigans and make the opponent feel like everything is out to get them. Boom. Just like that. This Pokemon's actually gonna be nasty, and I think the extra speed and extra damage means you get that brainless fear that people initially had with the Houndstone, where it's just like, yeah, you lose 2 Pokemon, Basculegion just kind of wins. And they don't have to put in work for it, whereas with Houndstone, you actually have to put in the work to maybe get a higher % win condition, but maybe this just wins if you just kind of set it up with the right utility and just like bulk it. Like again, you just play to sack. Just sack off your first 2 Pokemon, just prevent the opponent from setting up into a bad game state, make them weak enough, and Basculegion wins. And it's going to be easy. So there we go, guys. I'm excited for this. I hate saying it because like Pokemon Legends is trash. It's hard to find anything redeeming about 99% of that game, but Basculegion's actually like a cool design and cool lore, so it is the 1%, and that means you probably should use it. So hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching. This is going to be your guide to using Sneasler in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So because we have a Pokemon that's adjacent to Weavile with Sneasel evolutions, I want to compare the stats first. We have 125 speed on the Weavile with 120 attack. Sneasler is going to be slightly slower, and the trade-off is you get 10 more base attack. Now, I've been talking a lot about damage theory and the interactions, even going back to Generation 8, but Generation 9 it's really picked up. And on a physical Pokemon that needs to run Jolly, that doesn't have crazy high base power moves, this is no difference. It's not like, oh man, Sneasler is just the better Weavile because it finally gets the 10 more attack that it always needed. No, this is 2-hit KOing most Pokemon. This is 2-hit KOing most Pokemon. And with Weavile being faster, it also kind of shows like we haven't seen Weavile in a very long time because it's too frail for being able to just like 2-hit KO Pokemon. So that means if Sneasler is to be successful, it needs to do better things elsewhere. We also have like some weird stuff with the 120 speed. So Generation 9 and even Generation 8, like the speed tiers from like 110 to 130 just kind of didn't really matter too much. But here it actually matters because like 120, alright, we're not really seeing Dugtrio, we're not really seeing Inteleon. But then like as we creep above that, the difference between 120 and 125 is significant. Because now Sneasler's losing to Cyclizar, Greninja, and Meowscarada. So, Greninja, we're going to see how this Pokemon, like, gets picked up once it becomes available in the Battle Stadium. Cyclizar also has, like, some niche play, and then Noivern, like, it could happen, and Meowscarada is actually pretty common. So, this gets kind of weird. Now, the Fighting Poison dual typing also has a couple of interesting things going on here. So, 4 times weak to Psychic. Fortunately, Psychic, not that common. Also, we're frail, so a lot of things taking us out. Ground is a problem, flying is a problem. We do have resistances, so it is nice that we could, like, switch into something or, like, bulk out a predictable hit and then still try to get our 2-hit KO range. So that's kind of nice. And then offensively, it's pretty weird because we don't do anything to Ghost-type Pokemon, but we kind of dunk on everything else because Steel is going to be immune to Poison, but then Fighting is going to hit it super effective. Very interesting dual typing right here. And then we have a signature move, Dire Claw. 80 power, 100% accuracy, 50% chance to sleep, poison, or paralyze the target. Okay, let's see what's going on here. So, very reminiscent of Tri-Attack, and what Tri-Attack does is it splits 1/3 between each of those. I was trying to see if that's like the same mechanics that we have on the Dire Claw, but it just says like, it just does this. So, effectively, we have Tri-Attack mechanics. It's not like a 50% chance to poison, then a 50% chance to paralyze, then a 50% chance to sleep. That'd be way too busted. But like with this, like, okay, you have a 16% chance of each of these activating. Is that good? Is that worth it? Can it matter? I don't know. I feel like in Generation 9, this is just too much of a game. I'd rather throw a Guillotine. I'd rather cheese a Fissure on a bulkier Pokemon that's going to survive than the 16% chance I get the status I need. Probably close to like 32%, because if the opponent's going to sleep or getting paralyzed, that's probably really good no matter what. So yeah, like you look at this, it's like, okay, I can do this. I'm 80-60, so I'm pretty frail. 80-80 on the special, which means you kind of survive a couple more things. But then the fighting poison typing also kind of makes it a bit more interesting. But like Dire Claw, okay. Maybe they go to sleep. Very low chance. It's like trying to get a freeze on an ice beam or something. And then you can pick them off from there. But without that, like, you're just a Weavile that has like some RNG shenanigans behind it. I also find it really weird that Game Freak is trying to phase out some RNG by like nerfing double team or evasion strategies, nerfing confusion, nerfing paralysis, and just effectively removing Scald from the game. And then they introduce this nonsense. And then like fissure meta still prevails. It's pretty weird. We also have the ability, so pressure kind of doesn't matter. Like, it's more for like stally situations where you can see that matter, but not on a Pokemon like Sneasler. Unburden. Here's where it's like, okay, we can make up for our lower speed by pulling into shenanigans, and it's going to be like based on the moveset. So Unburden's usable. It's just kind of on an awkward Pokemon right here, and that could want more power. Like, I'd rather have higher attack, low speed, try to find a way to cheese Unburden or something. And then we have Poison Touch. Now, Poison Touch does stack with moves that already have an effect. There's math behind, like, using Poison Jab for the 30%, then seeing if Poison Touch applies after the Poison Jab, depending on if it lands or not. And it comes out to an effective, like, 51% or something. So Dire Claw is, you can go Dire Claw. If this doesn't happen, you still have a chance for Poison Touch to do something. It's not, like, a cumulative 80%, but still, like, a decent chance that it works out. And then, like, they're coming out with some kind of status. So if you're trying to build a status team, which really isn't that viable or effective, this is something that you can kind of, like, swing into. And maybe, but it's mostly going to be about playing with the Unburden. So yeah, the Pokemon really is Weavile with a gimmick. And people are like, but you like gimmicky RNG stuff. Yeah, I like it on good Pokemon. And I don't really see anything immediately good or, like, hard focusing for this, like, playstyle. But we can also kind of elaborate and go deeper onto it. So, let's look at what a Jolly Nature 130 attack Pokemon does. Not a lot. So, I mean, you have, like, Life Orb, but we're super frail, and it's not going to be converting any kind of KOs. And I think this is a lot of theory that was missing back in, like, Generation 4, Generation 5, even Generation 6, with, like, Mega Evolutions and stuff, where people were trying to just, like, funnel damage or do, like, default stuff where it's like, congratulations, you're turning your 60% hit into a 78% hit. A 2-hit KO is a 2-hit KO, my guy. So you're actually just kind of like losing health and then opening up you to get revenge KO'd, or just like you're not doing anything. So an item like a Life Orb on Sneasler isn't doing anything, and then you just get KO'd right after using it into most of the Pokemon in the game, or you just get set up on, because like a full defense Pokemon using Bulk Up or Iron Defense is going to love to see this. And even if you find the status chance, some tank Pokemon just don't care about it because Leftovers is going to mitigate the poison, or they might have Rest, or if they get paralyzed, like, they're already slow anyways, so it's just kind of a small chance. Well, decent chance, you know, you do get, like, back-to-back or 3-turn consecutive paralysis, but into a Pokemon as weak as Sneasler, it might not matter, and really the only thing is sleep, but again, like, low odds, and if they get, like, poisoned instead, now you just don't have a chance to inflict the status you want. So, kind of awkward right here. And then, yeah, the damage just doesn't immediately come through. And we don't have any damage boosting abilities, which is also what kind of, like, turns Pokemon into one-hit KO offensive threats. So, it's just like, yeah, we don't really do much on the Dire Claw, but we know this because average base power into average offensive attack into Jolly means, like, yeah, it's a 2-hit KO. This is it. That's damage theory. Honestly, this would have been a really fun Timmy Pokemon in Generation 6, but in modern Pokemon, you have to get Degenerate if you want to keep up, and this actually just looks really strong when you finally, like, apply and bring everything together. But then again, like, okay, if that's viable, why isn't Weavile just doing the same thing and already winning games? So either the entire Pokemon community is fraudulent and hasn't been just dumpstering with Weavile, again, who has faster and kind of like better situations to be in, but also there's just tons of Pokemon that can get access to the Taunt and then to the Swords Dance or the Nasty Plot, and you can even find it on like just better Pokemon. So sort by speed, oh yeah, Chien-Pao can do that. And Pao really hasn't been performing that well. Also, it's kind of funny how you look at Pokemon like Chi-Yu just completely outclassing and power creeping Typhlosion, and then Pao just doing the same to Weavile, where it's like, oh, it just gets a lot more speed, and then it also has like a nasty ability on top of it. But the idea is like you just play the taunt Swords Dance. Now, Dire Claw Reversal, like we talked about, actually has a really solid amount of damage, but then a Ghost-type Pokemon, like, what happens if you go against Gargantasol and it goes Terra Ghost? You just lose the game. And that's kind of the crazy thing about it, that even with Taunt Swords Dance, you don't do anything to the Gargantasol, because you have to immediately taunt it so it can't get an Iron Defense going, but then it can Salt Cure. And the Salt Cure damage is going to be, like, the same as your Dire Claw, and even then, like, you don't stack into a Reversal at some point, so Dire Claw does nothing, and then as you're Swords Dancing, you can only get quadruple that damage at max, but you have to be refreshing Taunt, and even at max Swords Dances, like, by the time you get there, you're just dead to Salt Cures. And that shows a weird drawback on the Dire Claw, that Pokemon like Gargantasol just don't care about the secondary effect, and Covert Cloak is somewhat played, so if Sneasler ever got any kind of, like, momentum in the meta, Covert Cloak would just become more common, and then Sneasler doesn't have a move. It's just an 80 base power nothing doing nothing. Also, like, going into the type coverage, yeah, fighting poison, also going to get walled out by poison, which generally like to be tanky. What do you do against Toxapex? Again, it just kind of gets weird to where you can't set up enough into the Toxapex for it to matter, even with like Taunt Swords Dance. So your core moves are going to get bulked out too much. Now you can go like poison something else on a Terra type or other forms of coverage, but then that means like you're forced into terrestrializing this when there's many better terrestrialization targets, both offensive and defensive, and then you don't really take off. So it's like, it sounds like this would be cool, but the bulky Pokemon you're going to be taunting and Swords Dancing actually don't care. And also, if you're not on low health, then Reversal effectively isn't a move. So it's like, okay, into Poison, you have even less effectiveness against, again, bulky Pokemon or even like different kinds of pressuring Pokemon. Then you're on 1 hit points, you get picked off by like a Sucker Punch anyways. And then it's also risky to get the Unburden because you have to bank on getting one shot, which also means that you want to go for a different kind of nature, like and then there's like different things you can do here. So you could also go for an offensive nature, try to get some damage back into the situation, because if you're unburdening 120 speed, yeah, it doesn't matter if you're Jolly or not at that point. You can also just kind of go for the Hasty, but 80-60 is already kind of vulnerable anyways. So like your best bet for proccing into the Focus Sash to then get the Unburden to then kind of snowball it out is going to be with the Naive nature, but also you don't want like tank Pokemon setting up, but there's a lot better taunt Pokemon. I don't know. Like you need the Swords Dance for damage, as we kind of saw with the Silvally thing, and then even something like this, if your Focus Sash doesn't proc, Acrobatics doesn't really do much, but also Acrobatics isn't doing much to begin with, because it's a 110 base power move on a 130 non-stab, even doubled, isn't going to be like one-shotting Ghost-type Pokemon or one-shotting Poison-type Pokemon. And then like going Terra Flying, I guess, is viable. And that's like, I guess you can hold on to this Terra if everything works out, where it's like, boom, you get the Swords Dance, the opponent doesn't have priority, you get knocked down to 1 hit points on the Focus Sash, now you go Terra Flying, triple stab, maximum damage output, especially with that Reversal. And I guess like the idea behind Reversal is that it's going to do significant damage to the Poison-type Pokemon when you're set up, which then goes back into why you have the Taunt, because if it's a Pokemon that actually really doesn't want to get taunted, and then you Swords Dance set up on it, and then just like 6-0 sweep, cool, this worked out. And if you can like get the bulky Poison-type Pokemon out of the game because of Taunt Swords Dance, have their sweeper hit you on that Focus Sash, and then you get to Reversal that Pokemon when it comes back, there you go. But then the Pokemon's very predictable, has some RNG elements. Like, this can still bail you out and save the game. Or if you get that clutch paralysis that you need, you get the clutch anything that you needed to win the game, it can convert some win condition, because you might win like 2% more battles. If you're not relying on the Focus Sash, like, you're still a 120 speed Pokemon, and even those can run Adamant with how bulky skewed the game is getting. So, like, you can do that and then run some other things to where, like, okay, you can close combat, and that's going to not, that's just like high damage, consistent. You also have the fighting type, like Terra fighting close combat on 130 is going to feel pretty good. at that point you don't need the focus sash, and then that's when maybe you can like try to find some kind of consumable item. But it's like Citrus Berry on your durability is hard. Like, it's hard to reliably proc an item on this moveset to then get the Unburden. And as we talked about, like, you're not really getting anything else out of anything else. There's also Red Card, but that banks on you surviving a hit. This Pokemon might be better to use in doubles, because then you can maybe just like Terra Flying, have Dire Claw, this would be a Protect instead, and then like you're just kind of running this offensive Pokemon that just kind of immediately gets going. I don't know what the relevant speed tiers could be, but maybe then like something weird like this happens to where you find a way to go anti-Tailwind strats, you're immediately doubling your speed, you have threat, but then you would have to use like a terrain setup somehow and then go into a seed. But if you go like terrain into some kind of seed and then you just like immediately do this into like terrestrialization and damage, okay, and then like you're slightly more durable, and then like you don't get one shot and you can 2-hit KO things on speed, and then have that terrain support just kind of help out even more. That might be the best way to use this Pokemon. I don't know if it like scales into being busted, but yeah, like, this thing's a mess. Like I said, we could just debunk Sneasler right here. Like, it's definitely not the most useless Pokemon we've seen because Wordeer exists, so it can work. And like I said, it's a fun Timmy kind of Pokemon, but I think the game is kind of like already just like giga power crap beyond this, and that's actually unfortunate. So hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching. This is going to be your guide to using Overqwil in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So we had like a lot of good Pokemon in a row. Kleavor can be pretty strong, Ursaluna is nuts, Basculegion is going to be like the most powerful strategy ever in Pokemon, and even Sneasler is usable. But now we just get back to like awkward, why were these Pokemon ever made kind of things. We got 115 attack and low durability. Like, there's sweeping Pokemon that are more durable than 85-65. Is this thing supposed to be a tank? 95 defense isn't that great either, and 85 speed, not a good tier. So like, offensively, we're a 115-85. Use Kleavor. Defensively, we are barely that. Now, we do have Intimidate, so we do get some extra defensive utility. That's going to be interesting. And our signature move is garbage. Barb Barrage. 60 base power, doubles if target is already poisoned. That doesn't do anything. Earthquake is a free 100, but even with this, it's like a 50% chance to then double damage, so that means you're doing 180 power over 2 turns, which is an effective 90. Which means just use like a Sludge Wave Pokemon or something, especially because the game skews more defensively physical, so you're actually just doing less damage because it's a physical hit, and you don't have like overtuned 140 plus attack. And we also kind of see this with Infernal Parade. That Infernal Parade is terrible too because it doesn't ramp. There's also like comparable moves that just do more damage. Like Venoshock on a special attacker, if target's poisoned, you just get more damage. Hex is better than Infernal Parade, and then like setting up the status doesn't work either. As we've learned with Glimmora, and as I've talked about many times because of the Hisuian Pokemon interactions with Glimmora, Toxic Debris just is not good. Glimmora is a very strong Pokemon, and it does that without having an ability. That Toxic Debris accidentally maybe works, and even if it does work, it actually has no impact on the battle. So with Overqwil, it means you have to have extra weakness to ground, because your Glimmora's 4x, your Overqwil, that's its only weakness, which is a strength of Pokemon, we're going to talk about that, and then Poison Spikes, or Toxic Spikes, has to stay on the field, and it almost never does, because Poison is pretty common, since it has, like, a lot of really usable Pokemon. Now, we do have the best typing in the game, because we're just weak to ground. That's it. Poison Dark, only weak to ground, has immunity, has good resistances. Like, we have everything a tank wants, but that's also why Muck was so nasty. And Muck had better tanking stats. 105, 75, 100, so 85, 95, 65. Like, Muck does it better, and also has similar abilities with, like, the Poison Point. And then it poisons them, and then people can't deal. And it's kind of crazy how, like, the Poison Dart typing is so strong that this was meta-defining. And you just couldn't do anything about it. I guess that also kind of shows, like, the skew we saw into bulk meta, and that was even, like, developing before Generation 8, but it really came out in Generation 8, and it became like, oh, that's just Pokemon in Generation 9, even though I've been playing it the whole time, so Felicify always ahead of the curve as the best Pokemon player. But, like, what else do we have to work with here? Now, we do have Hisuian Quillfish, because it's pre-evolution, actually gets the Eviolite, and then becomes tankier on, again, a very nasty typing. So, we have Eviolite into just, like, Iron Valiant, we take a good amount of damage, and then we have Overquill, so about 20% less damage taken on the Eviolite, and that means it's going to be hard to find an item that actually gets more of that. So if you're running defensive Overquill, you're just better off with Hisuian Quillfish. So now we can kind of see like how that works. Toxic, really nice. With Toxic being stripped from almost every Pokemon in the game, a Pokemon that can reliably and comfortably use Toxic is very powerful, especially because there's just like so much durability and tankiness and sustain inside the game. Being able to like remove that from a Pokemon, very, very important. So Toxic is good. And what about like recovery? Well, the weird thing is like Pincurchin gets recover, and Hisuian Quillfish kind of feels that way, but doesn't have the recover. We have Stockpile. Now it's the one thing like, can you ever use Quillfish back in like Generation 4, Generation 5, maybe Generation 6? Never really played out. Like Stockpile, one of the best moves in the game, just free on both defenses, and then you scale up. But like, then what do we do for sustain, especially with Eviolite? It's like we have Rest. No Chesto Resto. So like, that's kind of the only thing that would be different here is that you get the Chesto Resto on the Overquill into Rest, Stockpile, Toxic, and then something. So it means like you can get one Stockpile or two, Rest, Wake Up, Stockpile, and then you don't need Sleep Talk, because this is like the old school Snorlax strategy that I invented, where you just rest, and by the time you wake up, you get 1 or 2 turns because the opponent does no damage to you, and then you can keep on going. And they especially do no damage to you because of the Dark Poison typing. As for other moves, Steel-type Pokemon, yeah, it's not great against them, especially as a tank. So if you want to run this, you just kind of have to hope you don't see those Pokemon. Taunt kind of doesn't play into this kind of move set. Swords Dance doesn't even work on offensive Overquill, so I guess like Liquidation, and then you just hope that you keep tagging down the opponent and then getting those defense drops. But at this point, like, why are you not playing Toxapex? And if you go like the Terra Electric Toxapex just has the same weakness. And even though, like, I don't think Terra Electric Toxapex is a thing, especially because you're not shifting away from your ground weakness and you're still eating that very powerful Earthquake in setup, it's effectively the same idea, except, again, with that Intimidate, so means you, like, max special defense, max hit points, defensive nature, and then, like, you're just kind of building up tankiness like this, but the 115 attack doesn't, like, convert damage, so we're playing Toxic Stall, and that's it. I mean, like, nah, Hex on 65 if they're poison, but if they're like toxic, they're going down anyways, so you want something that affects like other poison and steel type Pokemon. And then it's like, yeah, Liquidation, 20% chance to lower, Crunch, 20% chance to lower. It's actually, because we aren't a water type Pokemon and Crunch hits everything, you just Crunch, get the stab. 95 uninvested Crunch at least does something. It's actually surprisingly good, because like if you do two-shot a Golden Go, and the Golden Go doesn't two-shot you back, unless it goes like Nasty Plot into Make It Rain and then finds a damage roll, but like it gives you the opportunity to do a stockpile and then pull some of that stuff, or if they're going for sub, you at least immediately break the sub. We can also look into other Pokemon like the Iron Moth, because as a poison type Pokemon, you can't Toxic it, so like does it bring any threat? It actually doesn't. Like that's kind of surprising, where it's like, yeah, you just get the gains right here and then it Eviolites, and then you're still like surprisingly tanky. So you hit that, and then Crunch is 3-shotting uninvested. And that's just like against special attackers. So against physical attackers, it's even better with the Intimidate switch in. And then we can go into some Pokemon damage theory to where Overquill doesn't matter. This is still a 3-hit KO, and then this is a 3-hit KO. So the 20 attack means nothing. Overquill's offensive power at less damage, or like less durability, doesn't like affect any meaningful matchup. Like, maybe there's a couple of super frail, like 2 into 3, but at that point you're setting up and you're like a 6-hit KO on stockpiles, so it doesn't really matter. So even though this moveset just looks like a complete int, it's actually pretty good, and it means I kind of have to walk back what I said about it compared to Toxpex. Why do you run this instead of Toxpex? Because you actually find that extra offensive pressure, and it's into Pokemon that you see into the meta to a usable degree. And the forced stab crunch on the Hisuian Quillfish is going to feel better than running Toxapex, which is going to have just a much lower attack. So like now we're actually dealing with significant damages in the damage drop-offs here. So it's gonna have a much lower attack, and then the liquidation just doesn't feel as good as the crunch into as many things, because dark type just hits everything really well. Now, the unfortunate thing is that Hisuian Quillfish doesn't have, like, any callback to regular Quillfish. It's a completely different Pokemon, so it's not like you have Soak Toxic shenanigans anyways. But again, we talked about, like, we just showed, the crunch is actually good. Now, you do get bodied by Corviknight, but Corviknight doesn't seem as common as it should be. And even though, like, Corviknight anti-tanks a lot of things, it loves to see a toxic stalling Pokemon and just set up against it. So you need a good offensive Pokemon to back up the Hisuian Quillfish, that way, like, setup tanks don't get way too out of control too fast. Sometimes that can't be helped against certain Pokemon into certain team compositions, but yeah, like, Corviknight beats a lot of these kinds of strategies anyway, so it's not like, oh, it's not good because of a Pokemon that isn't really used a lot beating it. So I mean, like, this is actually pretty strong. And that's mostly going to be how you use Hisuian Quillfish, because with these stats on the Overquill and, like, comparing the moveset, if you're trying to do, like, Taunt or Swords Dance setup, there's just much better Pokemon for that. Acupressure, not super reliable. It was really fun in, like, older Pokemon, but Power Creep has made it to where, yeah, you can't really gamble on that as much with any reliability to win. And maybe because our innate durability is so good on the Hisuian Quillfish, we can just kind of minimize instead of Stockpile. And this is also very viable, or we can keep the Stockpile, become unkillable, and just make it to where the opponent doesn't have any immunity to Toxic, you just win the game. So a lot of, like, offensive Fire-type Pokemon, or, like, some Fire, Ground, weird options and offensive pressure to remove Steel and Poison-type Pokemon, Terrifier, Chansey backing this up. Well, actually, you can't have Chansey because they have Yellow Light, so Terrifier, Blissey for that offensive pressure, and if everything they have left gets toxic, and then you can just, like, minimize Stockpile, Toxic Stall them with Intimidate, Eviolite, Rest. Like, yeah, you win, and that's actually pretty nasty as well. It would mean less reliability, but you win harder, and that feels pretty good, and it would also need a bit more team building around it to be successful. But, like, Hisuian Quillfish, actually good. Huh. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching. This is going to be your guide to using Hisuian Goodra in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So it's really weird because I kept seeing comments from people saying, I can't wait until he reviews Hisuian Goodra. Oh man, just wait, the Hisuian Goodra guide is going to be amazing. And then they didn't elaborate any further or give a moveset. So I'm going in without any guidance, and looking at the move pool, Hisuian Goodra doesn't get some crazy Legends Arceus signature move. It actually just gets a mediocre move, because in Pokemon Legends, yeah, it's busted, and I wish this came over into the main game. Shelter raises the user's defense in addition to making opponents' moves less likely to hit the user. Now, if this gave +1 defense, +1 evasion, that would be, like, the greatest thing ever, and it would also keep up with, like, the Pokemon Legends and new signature move Power Creep we've been seeing, but no, just gives 2 defense. And it's actually a downgrade from Acid Armor. So we look at Shelter. Shelter only has 16 PP. Acid Armor is an old school move that has 32. So Acid Armor is just better. Why aren't we running Goodra, I guess? Well, we can compare. So with the stats, there's a little bit of a shift. You know, we have 90 hit points, 70 defense, 150, compared to 80, 100, 150. Now, Goodra's in kind of a weird spot because, like, 80 speed kind of matters, and maybe you hit some, like, speed creep tiers or something, and it wants to be like this ultimate special tank, so you go bulky into Assault Vest, you try to 2-hit KO everything, you're a 3-hit KO, 4-hit KO against, like, some special attackers, and maybe you find, like, some outspeeds, and it just makes life really easy. So Generation 9 has, like, that weird, slower metagame that maybe Goodra could have been successful in, but no one really tried it out. And then also Paradox Pokemon Legendaries came in, and then it became extra hard for pretty much every other Pokemon to exist. And the difference with Hisuian Goodra is that we lose 10 hit points, but then we gain 30 defense. So we're more physically bulky, less specially bulky, and even then Goodra kind of struggles on some special situations, but we have Steel Dragon. So Steel Dragon, insane, one of the best type combinations, fighting ground weakness, that's it. We feel like a Ferrothorn, except instead of a 4x weakness to fire, we just have a 2x weakness to ground, which is also really nice. And then we pick up a ton of resistances. So I guess the idea is, like, you're either getting hit super effective, or for the most part, the opponent just doesn't have a strong or solid move option to use into you. But like Fairy, Dark, Ice, Dragon, you're going to see those, so you will take some neutral hits. But I guess there's like a lot of safe switch-in opportunities, or you can just avoid a lot of problems. And then with Terastallization, you can just shift around your weaknesses and just make it very hard to catch on. So sure, let's go and see what's possible with a moveset. And like, that was my thought. I'm like, okay, what do they want out of the Hisuian Goodra? Why are people jazzing this Pokemon up so much when like you max out the hit points, put some defense investment, that way like you can actually set up into your acid armor, maybe curse, we'll see, and then you just get some nice bulk based special defense, and then you win the game. So is this just like Snorlax Power Creep 2.0? Because Shell Armor, good ability if you're setting up, because one of the biggest things that'll do you in is a random crit that either changes the damage calculations or the opponent was setting up and that's the one shot, and now you don't get to play the game because they got luckier sooner. So that can be really upsetting. So like Snorlax that can't get crit, yeah, that sounds pretty powerful. Problem is, we also don't get any way of boosting our special defense. That's not good. That's very bad. So like, yeah, at least like Snorlax can curse Amnesia. There's a lot of other Pokemon that like curse Amnesia combos. With this, you don't have that, so it gets kind of awkward. Now, we get access to the Body Press, but then like as you break it down, well, then we don't want curse. We want not Amnesia, Acid Armor. And like, yeah, we're running this. This looks all right. You get defenses really quick. You become unkillable physically. You go Chesto Resto. Chesto Resto, I feel, is something that's been lost, because we've seen like a lot of rest sleep talking since Pokemon like Dondozo abuse it, and other setup Pokemon are like, yeah, if I can just like luck into something because I don't have sustain and I'm just a bulky Pokemon, so I'm around for 3-4 turns anyways, it's just better for me. So you can kind of set up enough and then rest, and then rest sleep talk works really well. I guess you technically get away with like curse, rest sleep talk, Iron Head, probably strong. With this, I like the autonomy that you get, and it also calls back to the old school Snorlax ideas where you rest, but by the time you wake up, you still have like at least a third of your health, so you can do another move and then rest, and then wake up, do another move, rest, and eventually you win the game. Harder on the 20-minute timer, but like still possible. And at least with Hisuian Goodra, you actually have a strong move, like 100 attack on investment, going to uninvested, yeah, that's English. Uninvested is going to be strong enough. You get stab, and like that's just fine. So this just kind of works out. The problem is that without any special defense, you actually just get set up on against something like a Golden Go. So Golden Go actually breakdances on you, and it's not good. Maybe the Flamethrower, and then it just, well, actually no, because special interactions are weird. So I mean, like, Calm Flamethrower, but then like that just looks ugly and not correct. But I guess like you kind of need it, but not really. And then yeah, even though you have a rainbow amount of coverage, it doesn't really help when like you're trying to go into fighting something, like fighting plus another typing, and then we don't have any dark to back up into ghosts. So it's kind of rough out there. Doesn't seem that great. But it also still has like sweeping strength. You go into the right team composition with this. They don't have Calm Mind. If they don't have Nasty Plot, you just kind of set up and win the game, and you do it without too much worry because of the shell armor, and that sounds pretty nice. Also, it's kind of one of those things where, well, if they wall out your Body Press and then you can't do anything with your follow-up move, you're just playing Hippo. You're just playing Snorlax. You're just playing any other stockpile setup Pokemon, any other Iron Defense, Body Press Pokemon, or Curse Amnesia or something. And that's also why it's nice having that Curse, because it isn't out, but now you're not gaining defenses as fast. Your Body Press doesn't really seem like it matters, because the reason why Body Press is cool is because it gives offense to the Iron Defense. But if you're gaining offense through Curse, well then, yeah, you're just better off using your moves, and then eventually you hit a +6 Iron Head, and that gets kind of nasty. But there's no special defense to get there, so I don't know what the better move is on the identity. But I mean, like, you can do this and just be like the unmovable object, and I guess it's going to be alright. Then it got me thinking, like, okay, we have really good typing on Hisuian Goodra, but like, what happens if Goodra just becomes a water type? and just goes for kind of the same stuff. I mean, I guess you can also tech in the Earthquake instead of the Flamethrower for some matchups as well. But my thought is, like, if Hisuian Goodra was supposed to be viable, then why isn't Goodra already getting play on, like, pretty much the same moveset? And if it gets bodied out by physical attackers, then you can at least go, well, Hisuian Goodra is going to be better at this. But Goodra doesn't get bodied out by physical attackers because of the acid armor, and since it has the body press, like, this should already exist right now and be doing really well, especially if you go Terra Water Sap Sipper and you only have an electric weakness, which means it's going to be better than this, kind of, because, like, again, there's enough coverage and terrestrialization and moveset options to where an opponent likely isn't going to get stuck only, like, hitting you with resisted hits. So, like, yeah, they're going to find one of the neutral hits or a super effective hit on your Hisuian Goodra, which means resistances don't really matter too much, and you just go Terra Water Sap Sipper. Your Goodra doesn't have to worry about anything, and like we talked about, since we don't have any way of gaining special defense, then it just kind of seems like having those 10 hit points feels a bit better. Actually, let's go level 50 to see what the difference is. I mean, the difference very negligible on base stats, so 197 compared to 187, literally 10 more hit points. But if you're resting a couple of times, that's a bit more effective special defense, whereas when you get 2 acid armors, physical attacks are doing an eighth of your health if they're lucky. So it feels like the defense doesn't matter, the hit points. I wish maybe Goodra got some kind of rework or stat change like we saw in previous generations, and then maybe Goodra could just be nasty. But then you have the same idea here, where it's like, you run this on Sap Sipper, you run the same thing on Sap Sipper, and there really isn't too much of a difference, except Goodra's actually faster. And I don't know, like, is there something I'm missing? I don't feel like I'm missing anything, because it's the same Pokemon with just 20 more points in defense effectively, and then it does the same things. Now, people might say, like, Life Dew instead of Rest, but the problem is, if you don't take off fast enough, then Life Dew is only offsetting the 25% they're doing, and if they terrestrialize, then, like, yeah, you're never going to get to the point where Life Dew is offsetting that, especially into special attackers. So Life Dew ain't it. Doesn't have Recover because Game Freak knew that would be a problem back in Generation 6. They never, like, really rectified any of that. And then it's just Goodra that has maybe something else it can do on Steel. So, yeah. Like, but this still seems pretty nice and pretty solid. Careful Nature, boom, 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 that. And that made me wonder, like, if this would work, why wouldn't this work? Now, Moringa Berry isn't out, but when Moringa Berry comes out, I feel like a lot of Pokemon are going to be getting viability. But until then, like, if you get the Apricot Berry going, because, like, let's say the opponent, you know they're going to do roughly 60% to you. It's like, all right, you Horn Leech, and then, yeah, so here's what you do. You take the hit, Horn Leech, you get back into, like, a health range where you survive. You take the hit, Milk Drink, Apricot Berry procs, and now you're at, like, 70% health. And, like, you're kind of ready to get going. You Milk Drink it back up, you bulk up, and then you start running it. Also, your Terra Water Sap Sipper, so the opponent can't do anything to you. Max defense, max special defense. You get all those bulk ups in there. Horn Leech, Earthquake, boom. Nothing stops you because Tropius isn't real, and it can't hurt you. So there we go. Like, that was my thought. People were jazzing up Hisuian Goodra. I don't know why. Game Freak's cowards, so they won't ever introduce any new evasion into the game. And, oh yeah, I was also kind of like, here's also what you can do with modern offensive Goodra, but it still doesn't come through. Had a damage calculation set up where it's like, okay, what does Flamethrower do into King Gambit if we're, like, kind of spreading it around, Modest Nature, Assault Vest? Now, a physical attacker into Goodra isn't ideal, but, like, the Flamethrower is a 2-hit KO onto max hit point, max attack, King Gambit, and that's, like, that's a super effective non-stab hit. So this is, like, Goodra's bread and butter, and it shows that it barely works, and you're also taking a lot of damage back. So if Goodra isn't getting outsped, it maybe goes 1-for-1, barely a 1-for-1 plus. Has Acid Spray to kind of, like, melt down some tanky Pokemon, which is nice, and then it has a couple of other options. But, yeah, like, offensive Goodra didn't work pre-Power Creep, and isn't really succeeding too much now. So then you kind of set up this, and then it's all the same, and maybe other Pokemon are viable. Again, Pokemon community could be fraudulent. This could actually be, like, super duper strong, or it's not working for a reason because it doesn't hold up with all the anti-setup, anti-tank, and just insane amounts of offensive pressure that we see in the game. So there we go, guys. Hisuian Goodra. It's Goodra. That's it. This is going to be your guide to using Hisuian Arcanine in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So let's do the stat comparison first, since that's a big thing between regional variant Pokemon. Also, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, share with friends, and comment your thoughts down below. But the difference really isn't that crazy. We lose 5 speed, 5 special attack, we gain 5 attack, and 5 hit points. I mean, like, hitting harder but being slower just feels like a weird side grade when it's like, hey, we're trying to make Arcanine more viable because we introduced this new form for it, and that doesn't really feel like it's the case. 5 hit points actually doesn't matter because we are a fire rock typing. We might as well have 1 hit points because 4x weakness to ground, 4x weakness to water, physical Pokemon, special Pokemon, they can hit us. Rock fighting weaknesses, those aren't good either, and our resistances are kind of like the weird moves that aren't super common, like Bug and Poison and Normal and stuff. Like Flying, I guess, is kind of common. But I mean, Electric, Grass, Dark, Dragon, Ghost, Steel, you're going to be seeing those a lot more. Still neutral, and as a 95-80 Pokemon, you are getting closer to that Silvally survival range, but like +1 or just direct damage is going to be pretty difficult to deal with. And even with the Intimidate, like if you find that rock type move or you get hit by something super effective, if the Intimidate's up, you're still getting KO'd because it doesn't fully negate the damage of a super effective hit. So yeah, like we look bulky, we feel bulkier, especially like Fire Rock type. Ooh, we should be a tank. But no, don't have any of that going on. We also have the signature move, Raging Fury, which Arcanine also gets once Hisuian Arcanine becomes available. You Mirror Herb it, it's an egg move. So now we just have a buff to Arcanine, except not really, because Flame Charge exists. Like, what? Why? Or not Flame Charge, Flare Blitz exists. So like, why? Why does Raging Fury exist, especially on Hisuian Arcanine, when it gets Rock Head as a hidden ability? So, I'm confused here. Raging Fury, it's like Thrash, it's like Outrage, it has 2 to 3 turns, you get confused afterwards. So it's like this weird RNG move that also locks you in. It's nice, 120 base power, stab fire, it's dangerous. A lot of Dragon Pokemon, you know, they set up a little bit and then they can crush an entire non-fairy team with just the Outrage. That's actually real nice. They can also back it up with Earthquake and do some other strats behind it. But then, like, you see it on Hisuian Arcanine, and it's very out of place. Again, because, like, you can go Rockhead, Flare Blitz, and then it's just better. I guess the idea being, like, well, I can run Raging Fury with Intimidate, but Intimidate on this Pokemon not really finding too much success. Let's see, like, how we can make Hisuian Arcanine work. So, Choice Scarf on 90 speed is going to be good. 115 attack means, like, we just go max attack. Adamant Nature, all in, all the damage possible, high base power, maybe it does something. And it also kind of goes into like some weird stuff with the actual moveset, because we already have Outrage. We can also run Thrash if we want to, and technically like Terra Normal Thrash, kind of giving us that damage of a Raging Fury or Flare Blitz, and we also have Head Smash. Now Head Smash is going to be our main move, 150 power, that's insane. Problem is 80% accuracy. So there's just a 20% chance this move screws you over, and you can just lose the game, especially if they have like a super effective hit coming. Again, pretty common. So Head Smash, like, this is kind of it for the Pokemon. We're not running the signature move. We're just using hidden ability with a move that doesn't really have too much like play, or like not a lot of Pokemon get it. When it all comes together, this can be pretty strong. And then like just other coverage to kind of clean it up on the Pokemon. So what does that look like in damage calculation? Oh, we slap. And you kind of need that Terra Rock, so you just, like, get all the damage. That's the name of the game. We're going for one-shots. We're going to try to just take it as far as it can go. There's the Rock. And then, yeah, if we outspeed everything and we one-shot everything, we don't have to worry about recoil. The only thing we have to worry about is accuracy. That's it. We're hitting all the damage thresholds that we want, and we can even go into, like, some weirdness over here. So, 90 speed, neutral nature, with a Scarf, speed ties Dragapult at level 50. Fortunately, Dragapult is trash, and it's actually not getting a lot of play anymore because people finally realize it's trash, but it just kind of shows, like, you catch everything. And then without Terra, chance to KO. With Terra, you do KO. That means we can also look at the Silvally, just damage comparison. So we drop this down to level 50, and that's the range you're looking for. Not a lot of just, like, uninvested Pokemon are going to be in this area. Some pseudo-legendaries get a little weird with it, but yeah, that's going to be fine. What about the Dragonite? Because we have the super effective hit, but Dragonite is also going to have its multi-scale. We're fine. We KO it. So that's just a threat gone. And even if it has like a +1 on the Dragon Dance, if it doesn't go Terra Normal or something, or if it's not at full health and goes Terra Normal, it's still going to be a KO. It's like, yeah, we go 99% Terra Normal, same thing. So even if it has a Dragon Dance, you catch it on the outspeed, they're running Adamant, so like Jolly shenanigans don't matter. Now, if it's a Jolly Dragonite, we're in trouble because we're factoring in the Dragon Dance, which would also come with an attack bonus, and we get KO'd. We don't have the 4x weakness anymore. It just kind of shows like Earthquake and Ground type vulnerability still exists, even if we go like Terra Fire or Terra Rock for the bonus damage. And then like the game breaks down and gets weird. Fortunately, Jolly Dragonite, not really super common, but maybe it actually like gets more pickup. Because, like, if it doesn't want to just immediately lose to an Iron Bundle at +1, so that means they have to go Jolly now, it just kind of shows, like, the weirdness with the 90 speed, where if it just kept Arcanine's 95 speed, and then, like, lost 5 more special attack, it would actually just have better ranges. Oh, I just realized we were doing all of that damage without Adamant, so yeah, Adamant is, like, the secured KO, but even if we are a Jolly nature with some kind of weird interaction here, we actually still find the KOs onto the Dragonite and the Dragapult, and that means we also, not Dragalge, that means we also kind of really convert the Silvally damage. So non-Terra Adamant onto the Dragapult finds the speed tie, and also still finds, like, the KO, but then if we go Jolly Nature to outspeed, which is kind of showing it, where it's like, maybe the 90 speed Scarf is a little too sketchy, and then we just kind of do that, and then we use the Terra to make up for the lack of Adamant, and then we still find the ranges on the Dragonite, on the Dragapult, on other Pokemon more comfortably. That could maybe be the play. We're looking at Pokemon like the Iron Bundle, and yeah, we're just going to just demolish this Pokemon. 206 speed, we cover for that, regardless of what we're running. It's just one of those things where, like, if everything's bulkier and slower, you want that damage, and if not, like, sometimes you get into some weird spots. So I don't know the better between Jolly and Adamant, but as long as Dragonite are going Adamant, you're probably safe running Adamant too. And the weird thing about this Pokemon is that our objective is not really surviving hits. So if somehow we survive a hit and we just get another head smash, that's win. That's 1-for-1 plus. We're in a really good situation at that point. So that's why I'm thinking close combat is good. We are just high base power, run them over. And that's kind of another weird thing, that you want to find the 130, 140 range, blah, 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 something, damage theory. But on certain Pokemon where if we're going Terra Rock, Stab, 150 base power, the 115 attack makes up for that. So we don't have to be that heavy hitting, and there's just higher sweepers. There's Pokemon that have like 120 speed, 130 speed, 120 attack, 130 attack, but then they use an 80 base power move, and it kind of doesn't matter. So with this Choice Scarf, we can still make up for the speed, our base power makes up for the damage, and the damage calculator says this is good. So if we run Fire, Fighting, Dragon, Rock, we actually get 762 super effective hits. And after playing around with this, like, oh, Steel is less than with Fighting? Okay, what happens if we do that? 758 versus 762, like, this is just finding more supers. Now this factors in all the Pokemon, not just the Generation 9 Dex, so, and the meta is also going to be, like, different. Now the question is, do some of these Pokemon give us problems? Because as we saw, the Head Smash neutral hit is going to be insane, so if we're covering for that, we're in a pretty good position. So, Toxapex. Yeah, the weird thing is, we still don't have Earthquake. That's unfortunate. Also, the Outrage is mostly here as like a haha kind of funny move, but if we want the Iron Head here, we can put it, and that's still going to be fine. Also, probably more reliable, especially if we're outspeeding, we're getting flinches, we're covering into like fairies and different team compositions. So yeah, run the Iron Head, but I also want to look at the damage calculations where we Head Smash a full defense Toxapex with our Rock. Okay, it just gets 2-hit KO'd after Black Sludge recovery, so it depends on the Toxapex. If it's a bad player and it's not running Stockpile, well then you get the win. If it's running Stockpile, then we get into like those weird things where it's like, okay, we take 60, so that means we're at 40%. However, we go for the Stockpile, and then that means they're doing potentially like 40% or something. Now, Leftovers is going to give us that 6%, so that means we can survive after the recovery, and then we go recover, and then now we just kind of can either PP stall it out. Also, again, Head Smash can miss, and we're just kind of in a better situation to where it's like, okay, so we recover, this goes up to 58%, then we get knocked down to potentially 18%, and then we actually come out health positive. Eventually, we get safe enough to use a second Stockpile, or Head Smash misses, or they run out of PP. So you can actually kind of stall out the Head Smash, but it has to be full hit point, full defense Toxapex. And if it's too high damage rolls, that means Toxapex can also get KO'd, and if it's Adamant, that means it's just kind of over, so seems like we don't need the Earthquake. And that also makes sense, because, like, with this much base power, getting the double stab, the super effective Earthquake doesn't matter. So this is one of the most instant, sweeping, powerful hits, and it even threatens some of the bulkiest defensive Pokemon we've ever seen. That makes it pretty good. Also, you might be thinking, what about Water-type moves? Well, remember, we're just Mono Rock now, so we can even survive a super effective hit from a Pokemon with no offenses. So you actually have the ability to just kind of run into bulky Pokemon, and like I said, if we survive and we get that second hit off, we're just kind of winning, and that's shown through these kinds of matchups. So this is pretty good. Again, that 80% chance. Like, some games you're going to win, some games you're going to lose. Stay lucky, and then hopefully the Head Smash just kind of carries and destroys everything. Interesting Pokemon, brainless, but that's kind of it. Like, this is one of the hardest hitting Scarf Pokemon out there that just kind of instantly works and sets up into a lot. So maybe this can just be, like, successful. And then we just have something that the Arcanine doesn't. Arcanine moveset is more like doubles, tech, shenanigans. You spam utility with Intimidate, Snarl, and then you can, like, stay around with Morning Sun, and then you might threaten a little bit of damage here and there. But, like, with this, if you're just running, like, an offensive, just beatdown Pokemon, it's surprisingly honest, even though it is overtuned, but since everything is overtuned, it's kind of balanced out. It's like, yeah, you can just do this and maybe just crush a Timmy, and that's going to feel pretty fun. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching. This is going to be your guide to using Hisuian Electrode in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So what's the difference between Hisuian Electrode and Electrode? Almost nothing. So we have the same exact stats, and looking at the abilities, Soundproof, Static, Aftermath, Soundproof, Static, Aftermath. The differences are going to be the Legends Arceus signature move that the new Pokemon get, as well as the typing, and my goodness, that typing looks terrible. My goodness, that typing is terrible. Game Freak. Why? What is going on here? So we trade Electric, like Mono Electric, just one of the best typings. You only have to worry about ground, and you also pick up a couple of resistances. So what's a lot of neutral hits? Like, this doesn't have to worry about much. This has to worry about a lot. So Ice is common, Fire is common, Bug gets play, Poison gets play, and you get 1 resistance for adding 3 weaknesses. That, my friends, is not worth. So, is there anything else that Hisuian Electrode can make up for? Well, we have Chloroblast. User loses 50% maximum hit points. Wait a second. Where have we seen this one before? Oh, it's Steel Beam for any kind of Pokemon. Like, so let's pull up the Steel Beam, and yeah, it's actually, like, slightly different. So, same 95% accuracy, 140 power. This is 150 power instead, but we still have 80 special attack. So we're going to see if that is useful in any kind of way. This might just be like a sacrifice explosion Pokemon, which really hasn't been played since Generation 5, and I might have seen it once in Generation 6. So that strat faded out, and it looks like, you know, we never really saw like crazy Steel Beaming come into play unless it was like Sacrifice Duraludon, but with Dynamax, it made it to where you could run that and still have a very powerful move. We also had that Ultra Beast, Blacephalon. Yeah, this Pokemon was really weird because it was simultaneously a menace and also didn't really do too much, and it has Mind Blown, but on 151 special attack, as well as a sweeping speed and the Beast Boost ability to make things get out of control, but at the same time it would cost half its health, and you can't like do EV shenanigans. It's going to round up, so you get 2 uses. And that's it. Also having the 150 base power and the 100% accuracy, so this kind of getting in between where it keeps the lower accuracy of the Steel Beam, but then gets that little bit of extra base power to play with. We're going to have to like see how that works out. Now, we do have regular Electrode, and regular Electrode has had this weird viability to where you can just run it, and it's gonna be alright. But there's a problem here. So 150 speed, amazing. Ah, dang, we need to go Timid to keep up with Iron Bundle. That's kind of unfortunate. Fortunately, we don't feel like the worst part of, oh no, we're not mod a special attack where we could like leech that out on a 150 speed. So we just do this and kind of hope for the best. There's a world where maybe you might want to survive, but the damage calculations are also kind of wild. So you just go Timid, Electrode. I don't understand these garbage Smogon sets just splashing heavy-duty boots everywhere. And then you just go against Iron Bundle, and you KO it with Discharge, so you don't need the Thunderbolt. And I like the Discharge because it means you can still lay down the paralysis while being offensive. so you might not have to like waste a turn on Thunder Wave, or just like keep hitting it, and if the opponent, you know, eats a discharge, gets paralyzed, that's solid. Even if Electrode goes down, you've done something that can like set your team up for the victory. That's really what this Electrode does. It sets you up for victory, but it's not like a direct 1-for-1 plus. It's a bit more ambiguous than I'm a 3-hit KO Pokemon that trades and then maybe picks up a little bit extra. So looking at this, like, yeah, you can just beat an Iron Bundle, and if the Iron Bundle has to switch, the opposing Pokemon, again, is eating a discharge, risks getting the paralysis on it, at least take some kind of damage. You also have taunt options, and you can do other things to it. So there's interesting things going on with the Electrode. And I've always found it to be viable, but people just don't run it. The Mirror Coat is cheesy. The Focus Sash means you're going to be able to do a couple turns of something, like boom, you shut down a status move, you get them status, then you can either like switch out because now they're pretty much forced to switch, or you get some damage down, and against special attackers that you don't one-shot, you surprise them on the Mirror Coat, they bring in opposing Pokemon, and now you're a 1-for-1 plus. Hey, look at that. Electrode just kind of winning, and you're at a speed tier that really nothing is going to catch or is trying to catch, even with like Scarf shenanigans, so you're in a pretty good spot. Static just kind of like adds to more of this. Aftermath, kind of securing a little bit of extra 1-for-1 plus. I think you could go either of these, where it's like Static gets redundant, where like discharge hits them, they get paralyzed, and then they try to like make contact. Okay, whatever, but in those situations where like you taunt, get hit with like a punching move, and then the Static lands, oh, that feels really good too. So whatever you want, but this can like also kind of be 1-for-1-y shenanigans, to where like you trade with the Iron Bundle, they have like a one-shot on you, maybe even priority, and then Aftermath kind of picks it up and at least get you a little bit extra. So talking about Electrode, what about Hisuian Electrode? I guess you can do pretty much the exact same thing. Like, the weaknesses don't matter when you're 60, 70, 80, and you're most likely just going to be running a Focus Sash on like your insane speed. But what about Chloroblast? Well, now we gotta change the damage calculations. Oh, I just realized, Chloroblast actually keeps on brand with Electrode, because Electrode is like the explodey Pokemon, and this is also the explodey move, because like you use it twice and then you're gone, so haha, I get it. If we can actually make this matter, that gets a bit more interesting. So, Silvally into the Chloroblast, without anything, because remember, we're forced into the Timid, unfortunately 80 special attack, and then we just like do this. So that's no modifications whatsoever, so that means choice specs. Like, if we're outspeeding everything and we're going to be KOing ourselves anyway, like, Focus Sash does nothing for us, so we need to get as much damage possible. That hurts. And then if we go Terra Grass, like, we just have one-shots. Like, we get to KO 2 Pokemon we outspeed that don't resist us. It's just Grass, so that can be problematic, but I mean, alright, let's do something interesting. Like, let's say we're going up against a Special Defense Garganassault. We dial this down to 50 because it actually helps out in damage. And then we go Terra Ghost. And boom. Something like that. So the trick is we don't get to one-shot special tanks. We effectively just get to outspeed and beat like any other sweeping Pokemon or any kind of fast Pokemon or whatever. Now, I was thinking about, what about more frail sweeping Pokemon that resist you? Do you find it? Well, Chi-Yu actually doesn't have that low of a special defense, so it's not frail specially. Chloroblast's still doing, like, good damage, but unless it's already taken chip or something, you aren't finding the KO, even Specs, Terra Grass. Also, if it's going to be Choice Scarf, you're kind of in trouble, but Specs means you're already, like, getting super uber KO'd anyways. Other Pokemon, Meowscarada is going to be something to see if we get damage on. Not a KO. So like that 80 special attack, it doesn't swing it into like the full defense tanks or the assault vesting Pokemon or the Pokemon that are frail but resist us. It's just barely not there. Now, what range would it need? It would need like a 110? That feels unfair, but it's also kind of like what would need to happen here. And you are sacrificing yourself, so like you can get 2 KOs for 1 in the perfect situation, even with the 110, and it's like just less possible, less common on the 80 special attack. But the 80 just picks up the Silvally range we're looking for, so uninvested special attackers, non-resisting special attackers, they get KO'd. You outspeed them again, they get KO'd. And then for the rest of your moveset, I don't know, Thunder still has 70% accuracy, so you're just going with like a decent hitting, 2-shot Thunderbolt. It's also going to find like coverage into some other Pokemon flying types. The problem is that base power calculation gets kind of funky, especially if you're going like Terra Grass, to where Thunderbolt is less damage than the Chloroblast onto a resisted hit like Chi-Yu. So that's awkward. As for some other things, like, oh boy, we have the Foul Play for Ghost-type Pokemon, kind of, and then don't have Shadow Ball. We're old school Electric on the moveset. We got Giga Drain. I don't see any kind of world where it's like Chloroblast into Giga Drain, and then we can, like, get our health back, and then Chloroblast again. I mean, unless it's like, it would have to be a super rare situation where it's like, Chloroblast is 90%, they're setting up, or they get, like, status or, like, locked out by something else that happened into the game, and then you Giga Drain back like 3 health, and then you can Chloroblast. But actually you can't because you're Specs. And then Life Orb Chloroblast is also going to be a lot of damage to have to make up for, but you're also losing the damage thresholds. Like, that would maybe be fun, where if we had 100 special attack, we can go Life Orb and then still have the KO ranges, and then like Chloroblast Giga Drain it back on certain situations. I don't know. This Pokemon also isn't bulky enough to be like, I take a hit and I Giga Drain it all back on like shenanigans. And if we're playing Choice Specs Giga Drain, we've already talked about other Pokemon that are just better for that. Toadscruel, Arboliva, so I mean, we've talked about Pokemon that are better for this. Taunt Specs is griefing. Volt Switch is a terrible move, so I mean, like, I guess it's better than nothing where, like, you have this much speed in your specs, so, like, you can sting something for 1/3 of its health, but if you don't get the good switch or the good play or the ultimate prediction, you're just losing. But eventually you come back in with Chloroblast and do a lot of damage, so I mean, you're just in an awkward state, and there's not really much you get to do. If something works out to where, like, the meta becomes favorable for Life Orb, and then you can do Giga Drain Taunt, maybe that's just it, because, like, we're in such a slower, bulkier game that, like, taunting a setup tank, Thunderbolting, Giga Draining trades, and then Chloroblasting, or Chloroblasting Giga Drain, and then getting able to Chloroblast one last time, maybe twice extra, and then like this. The utility is so powerful in the game. Like, if you're not running Taunt and then a setup Pokemon happens, you're in a bad spot. It is kind of weird though, because against setup Pokemon, like, you just Chloroblast them twice, and unless they read the first Chloroblast and immediately recover, like, that's the counterplay here. If you're playing a bulky Pokemon, you need to immediately recover, anticipating Chloroblast, and then have them KO themselves. But, like, worst case, you go 1-for-1 into a potentially threatening tank to where if that Pokemon got set up, it actually just wins the game. So maybe, like, losing a Hisuian Electrode for that is kind of fine and worth it. The real problem is that you're always going to have the wrong moveset. If it's Life Orb, you're not going to get the KO, they're barely going to survive, and then you don't even go 1-for-1. If you have Life Orb, you're going to KO something with Chloroblast, and then they bring in a Corviknight, and now you have to, like, double switch to get into the Thunderbolt. But then Corviknight could just, like, read that and go Iron Defense on your switch, because the Chloroblast just KOs you and does nothing to the Corviknight. And then on the switch back in to reset into the Thunderbolt, it just goes Body Press, and because you're at half, you're KO'd. I would say it's good, though. That much speed, the ability to just immediately deal with an Iron Bundle. Let's see what happens with the Fluttermane, because Fluttermane has the low hit points. Yeah, we're KO onto the Fluttermane, so, like, you just deal with fast, sweeping threats. You can trade, and also if you have, like, the right bulky composition backing it up to where, like, Hisuian Electrode can switch out, and then switch back in, and then reset into, like, Thunderbolts or Chloroblast, or maybe, like, Giga Drain, and then switch out again or something. It's like, a weird hit-and-run Electrode could be annoying for some composition to deal with, and if you build around it properly, it could actually just be a sweeping threat. So I think it's not blatantly, overwhelmingly, everyone needs to run it, but I do give a recommendation, like, some mad lads can, like, make this their thing, and it would probably be pretty cool for the game. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching. This is going to be your guide to using Hisuian Lilligant in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Now, one weird thing I've noticed about a lot of the Legends Arceus Pokemon is that the Pokemon are mostly power adjacent or slightly power crept. Now, there are some exceptions, like what was Game Freak thinking with Ursaluna, and Basculegion is going to have like some of the craziest tech in Pokemon, but as we've been reviewing the other movesets, like yeah, these are kind of the same Pokemon like what we see with Sneasler, or slightly better like we see with Hisuian Goodra, but then it makes me wonder, why are we just not running the current form of the Pokemon until the Hisuian version comes out? Like, Lilligant's always been viable. We got a strong Quiver Dance, special attack, special defense, and speed by 1 on 110-90. Like, all you have to do is find a way of surviving a hit either with a Focus Sash, or if you can just, like, set up on the right Pokemon, outspeed a slow special attacker, and then just kind of bulk it out, well, we can get damage on top of damage, and then we can also go for, like, the high base power with Petal Dance. Own Tempo means we don't get confused by it, and then we're just winning. And if some way we get, like, a Giga Drain Sustain into a safe second Quiver Dance, then we're just hard winning the game. Also, we can do some other weird stuff, because we have Terrestrialization, so we can go like Terra into another type to expand our coverage. Grass, Bug, really not that great. But we also saw a Pokemon like Butterfree just take over the game to where, oh, a tank Pokemon is happening because it's all tank setup. Butterfree is just going to sub, not care, get a million Quiver Dances, and then sweep or Baton Pass. Lilligant can do that, but we're not seeing it. So, like, again, Pokemon community is fraudulent, and we kind of already have a lot of these things going. And even with, like, other Pokemon, where's the Agility, Fury Cutter, Eviolite, Scyther if Fury Cutter Cleavor is going to be so good? This still wins. Where are your free wins? And everyone's complaining about the ladder being too hard. I don't know. So, Hisuian Lilligant, kind of the same idea, where it's like, well, we already have it, just slightly different. So, raises the user's attack, defense, and speed by 1. I will give Game Freak some credit in making this Pokemon just like a mirror for an attack versus a special attack, using an existing move like Quiver Dance, and then still keeping a dance theme with Victory Dance. Now I'm guessing like Oricorio is going to pull some shenanigans with this, and then, yeah, stuff's going to happen here. Also, maybe some co-star and doubles, but we didn't really see that, like, go super crazy in Generation 7 with, like, Quiver Dance, Oricorio, and some other dancing strats, or, like, trying to copy all these stat boosts and stuff, but maybe something happens, or maybe it doesn't. However, we just have a very similar Pokemon, so 105 speed, 105 attack, we hit insignificantly less hard. Now, there are going to be, like, more physically skewed Pokemon, so this 105 attack probably feels closer to, like, a 95 special attack. Maybe 100 or something, so decent amount of damage drop, but on that 105 speed, it means we have the luxury of actually going the offensive nature, and then we're just going to be fine right here. We are just as frail, though, so Focus Sash probably going to be something we want, especially with our typing. Yeah, that's one of those Grass plus something means you're weak to everything typings. Not as bad as Grass Psychic, but 4 times weakness to Flying. We have Poison, Fire, Psychic, Ice, and Fairy weaknesses. Ah, that Fairy one just feels bad because, again, like, Stray, Moonblast's gonna hurt. Fairy type hits, pretty common. Ice, Psychic. Yeah, like, this is not great to deal with. Now, your offensive coverage does get pretty decent off of this, but still, that's gonna be kind of rough on the super effective hits, but 70-70 doesn't really survive neutral hits that well in modern Pokemon, so we just have, like, classic Dragon Dancing, Sashing, setting up kind of Pokemon. Another weird thing about the Hisuian Lilligant is that it gets access to Axe Kick, which very few Pokemon get, and it's a pretty wacky sounding move. Axe Kick inflicts damage, 30% chance of confusing the target, so 30% confusion just baked into a move that has 120 base power, 90% accuracy, but it also has the crash damage of a high jump kick. Alright, and we don't get the high jump kick, so we have the Axe Kick, but as we go deeper into the moveset, oh, we have Close Combat. And we're going to be on 1 hit point, super frail, getting 1 shot anyways. Even for, like, Victory Dance and they trade setups, we still don't care about Close Combat, because we're 70-75. We're, even at full health, a -1 and a -0 is no difference whatsoever. And then, like, looking at the offensive moves, like Leaf Blade into Terra Grass or something, we have Chlorophyll, doesn't matter if we're going to be speed boosting. We have Hustle, which is probably going to be the most important one. And then Leaf Guard, no one has really ever used Leaf Guard ever. And then we open up an extra move slot. So let's see what happens with the Grass Fighting. So yeah, we hit well. Like, Fighting kind of teching into things, going to be alright, but Grass notoriously gets resisted. So we can see that we don't hit Poison-type Pokemon too well, and we don't hit Flying-type Pokemon too well. Okay, so that's something to consider, and that also means we can, like, open up our Terra options on that. So Ground means we're going to take care of Poison, but that doesn't really help us against Flying-type Pokemon. Ice, just because, like, Dragon and Flying, and then, like, some other Pokemon are going to convert. We can actually just kind of check some of these, where it's like, boom, we do that. 24, not very effective. Boom, we do that. 135, not very effective. All right. Keep kind of like looking around. Fairy's still going to get resisted by poison. So, Psychic? No, that's still not the play. Actually, could be the play because it's some weird steel type. Golden Go. Gotta deal with the Golden Go. And that's kind of like the bigger threat where now we're dealing with like common Pokemon versus uncommon Pokemon versus what's actually in the dex versus what's meta. And then if we go back to ground, what Pokemon here are more of a threat because like the weird typing interactions? Ghost. Really? Okay, so that's what I mean. Like, yeah, fighting Ghost is actually just like notoriously insane. And then with the Zoroark, which we don't really see too much, that was like the only thing that changed it. So that's what I mean. Like, you can kind of build out and try to get something onto this. The weird thing is Hisui and Lilligant just like randomly gets the poison jab, so it's like his Game Freak trying to build this, but we just saw that like that's not going to work out too well, so you kind of have to dedicate the Terra into it. But then like your triple stab, your +1, you have like more than +1 because 1.5 on top of 1.5 and extra shenanigans coming in, and then we're also getting extra damage and extra stabs and stuff, so that seems to be the play. And looking at the damage calculation, that's where this Pokemon kind of gets weird, where it's like, okay, we're just +1, Adamant Nature, 105, using close combat. We don't neutrally KO a 95-95. Now, as we talked about, this is like the peak. This is the pinnacle. You want to get to this, that way you don't have to worry about anything, and you're pretty much two-shotting any tank Pokemon, which then doesn't threaten you because they have no damage. Leaf Blade, also not really that crazy, but if we kind of dial it back into different Pokemon, Iron Valiant, kind of like a Pokemon where, okay, if you can catch this kind of sweeper, we got 74, we got 90, we got 60. If you can damage this Pokemon significantly, then you're going to be in a pretty good spot. Why is the close combat doing so much damage? Oh, that's because I didn't dial Hisui and Lilligant to level 50. Yeah, so it kind of shows that if we had the neutral hit with this close combat level of power, then that's going to actually be a KO onto the Iron Valiant. And then Leaf Blade, it's kind of awkward where it's like, okay, so yeah, the +1, 105, just 90 base power regular move, not gonna be enough to KO. But remember, we do have the Hustle ability, so that's kind of what you need to push this Pokemon over the edge, where without the extra boosting, we're just a Pokemon we've seen a million times before. With the extra boosting, oh, now we're just threatening one-shots on everything once we get the Victory Dance set up. Now again, this exists on a lot of Pokemon, like Shell Smashers, because they get the double damage, and then they have like Terra options and even more insanity. They can then take it further, but they are like at risk of a priority move, or there's some kind of other drawbacks where we're not seeing Shell Smash Pokemon every single game like we used to back in the old days. So with this, like, yeah, you don't have damage until you hustle, and then you do have damage, but everything is going to be on that lower base power. We can also kind of show like Terra Blast into Ghost, and then we go Terra Ghost. Actually, it would probably just like automatically do all that stuff for us. So even then, like 74, 90, +1 hustle, Terra Ghost is neutrally KOing. And then that means we're also, like, that's what we want, because we're putting in the Terra Ghost to then offset into extra neutral hits that we didn't have. And then boom, we can just kind of go and win like that. I'd also convert some other ones because there's like Golden Go down here, so that's just a super effective hit. That's just a big crush onto the opposing Pokemon. Glamora, maybe something to kind of see where it goes. If we're just like offensive Glamora, we can actually KO it on the Terra Blast. We also have Leaf Blade, I guess. Just kind of think like, what about a poison type Pokemon that just has blank kind of durability? So like 83, 90. That's going to be a neutral regardless of what we swing, and then just more damage if we find that little bit extra on the Leaf Blade. And then, yeah, we're in like an untouchable speed tier. Really, the only thing that stops us at this point is priority or like super Giga Bulk, but it's taken another Pokemon. And then that makes me wonder, like, yeah, what about like Lilligant with Terra or Quiver Dance or some kind of other stuff, because it's very similar, and you actually just have more damage on the Petal Dance, but also not, because we don't have the Hustle. But then, like, yeah, so technically the only thing that stops you is like a really specific tank Pokemon or your own RNG screwing you over 20% of the time. And we kind of see this where it's like, much like the Hisui and Arcanine, Head Smash is cool. When it misses, it isn't. But until then, you're winning. So that's kind of like the big thing about this Pokemon. And then looking at other parts of the moveset, like I guess you got Cheese where you can Encore them. The Pokemon doesn't have access to the taunt, but Encore is like the power crept better taunt, but sometimes can fail you. And then we just have some like other weird stuff that happens here. Do you Encore Swords Dance, and then you just well, it's like, and then you wall break, but you need to get the most damage out of that close combat. Leaf Blade is still going to be pretty nice, and it is just 120 on the close combat, so I guess that is comparable to the effectively no drawback Petal Dance that we get. But again, like, if Lilligant has slight viability, that means Hisuian Lilligant's going to be awesome, but it means we should have seen like some kind of successful usage of the Lilligant, if that means Hisuian Lilligant is going to find any viability. I don't know. And then, like, yeah, you just have, like, 105 Adamant, Swords Dancing, if you just Encore tank or something, and then you're just kind of set up to succeed. But, like, there's other Pokemon that do that, there's other Pokemon that are currently doing it better, and then we don't really have too much else going on. Like, I don't know, is there something, like, really ignorant where you just run the wildest utility where you entrain a special attacking Pokemon to where now they have less accuracy, and then you like try to play something off of that, but again, you don't have the bulk. Like, this would actually be like one of the coolest things to see on a different Pokemon. But another thing we've seen with like modern Pokemon design, really starting in Generation 8, but also a little bit in Generation 7, is like, it's a very specialized Pokemon that can do one thing and effectively has one moveset, and then like some slight tech options that might get out of control. Because I don't think Game Freak expected Encore to be on 75% of Iron Bundles. Go check right now on Pokemon Home. It's disgusting. It actually might have gone up even. It started out like 40%, and then now everyone's like, yeah, Iron Bundle's actually just the anti-tank that then soft sweeps with some damage. Like, you give up all your damage just so you can go Encore onto a tank, and then you have like 2-hit KOs. It's kind of awkward. I don't think Game Freak expected that. So it's like weird splash of Encore on every Pokemon almost feels like a mistake that will have to be undone in future generations of the game. But then, like, yeah, why do that on Hisuian Lilligant when you have Iron Bundle for that, or some other kind of Pokemon now that this meta is developing inside of it? But outside of like stupid oversights from Game Freak, it's like this Pokemon does one thing. It's built to use its signature move, and then it's built to sweep around that with the new gimmick. GG, easy. Here's the extra damage just to make sure it one-shots everything. So, hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching. I don't know, man. Hisuian Braviary makes absolutely no sense. I think it's actually the worst designed competitive Pokemon ever. And we can see that with the stats. It just makes me think, was there an error? Like, now I'm actually doubting all of my other moveset guides, even though it seems like the stats are updated. There's no way the stats are updated if we have a Pokemon with 110 hit points, 70 defense, 70 special defense, 65 speed, and 112 special attack. Like, this is an error, right? It's supposed to be 112 speed, 110 special attack, and then we still don't really have a usable Pokemon. Abilities. Tinted Lens. It's actually good. We see that being pretty busted on low kicks and some other Pokemon potentially. Sheer Force. A really good ability that we actually don't see enough of. And the reason we don't really see it is that it's hard to balance on modern Pokemon. Like, an old, outdated, power crep Pokemon with Sheer Force can, like, find a way to maybe scrap it out in modern Pokemon a little bit. But you put this on, like, a new boy, and it's just going to be potentially way too strong. So, yeah, we actually have, like, some pieces, not really, because that 65 speed is just atrocious. And then we get into the signature move, Esper Wing. 100% chance to raise the user's speed by 1. Okay, we have moves like that, but they are going to be a lot less base power. So, another weird thing we've seen with modern Pokemon a lot in Generation 9, as well as Pokemon Legends, is that it takes, like, effects and other moves and just kind of elevates it a little bit. Like with King Gambit, where other accuracy bypassing moves have 60 base power, Kowtow Cleave has 85. Palafin, for example, Jet Punch is just Aqua Jet, but 60 base power instead of 40. So we get some kind of like power crep signature move that really synergizes with the Pokemon, and Esper Wing has that, where it's like, alright, we got Flame Charge and Trailblaze, but on an 80 base power move is actually going to be like usable and potentially threatening. Problem. Why do we have Sheer Force? Why does Sheer Force exist on this Pokemon when it negates the effect of Esper Wing? And there's no, like, special interaction or anything. I went on Bulbapedia to check. Yeah, Esper Wing is affected by Sheer Force. So we get the bonus damage. That's cool. But this is not a move. This move does not exist. You know why? Oh, we got a stronger one in Psychic. Psychic is affected by Sheer Force. This Pokemon is the perfect representation of Pokemon Legends as a whole. Poorly designed, doesn't make any sense, and doesn't really seem like there was any quality assurance anywhere. Also, the designs are awful. Hisuian Arcanine is just a downgrade. It's waste of so much potential of an alternative regional variant form of Arcanine, or like a Mega Evolution or an Evolution. We didn't get anything that cool. We got mud. We got the same thing that just looked like it rolled around mud and didn't become interesting in any way. And a lot of the other designs are just some of the worst designs we've ever seen in Pokemon. Soon Braviary, it doesn't look remarkable in any way, and then it just doesn't make any sense. Like, alright, Tinted Lens Esper Wing, but now our speed is too low to even matter. And then we have to go Timid Nature, so that means we are a neutral 112 special attacking Pokemon that has no speed whatsoever. And even if we use Esper Wing once, we're not outspeeding anything. 65 isn't a real speed tier. At +2, we barely outspeed Scarf Chomp, which means a 105 speed Pokemon or faster that's finding a +1 either through a Scarf or some kind of boosting move just beats us. And then there's also like weird stuff going on. Like, we've seen Scarf Greninja in the past. I'm pretty sure there was actually some Scarf Cinderace going on, and now we're seeing like booster energy on even Pokemon like Iron Bundle just to make sure it's the fastest Pokemon to ever exist. So you have to get 2 turns of setup just for Iron Bundle to have more damage and more speed than you. I guess it's alright because you don't have any resisted hits. Also, Psychic Flying, going to be weak to a lot. Rock, Ghost, Electric, Ice, and Dark. Ghost, Electric, Ice, and Dark being pretty problematic moves to have to deal with. And then Flying special attackers, oh man, these guys struggle because you have the Air Slash, but that's low base power. And then Hurricane has a very high chance of missing, so I mean, like, you have to go Tinted Lens Esper Wing to barely not outspeed things after 2 uses if you're somehow alive. So there's even worlds where it's like, okay, we go Focus Sash, and then we try to like 2-shot things with a 112, no boosting whatsoever. Like, we don't have the Modest Nature, we don't have an item, we don't have an ability effectively, because then we remove our Esper Wing effect. So like, this Pokemon wouldn't even last in Generation 5. And then if we go Sheer Force, it's like, alright, our Hurricane is kind of threatening if it lands, but again, there's just way better Pokemon and power and other things to find. And if this speed was anything else, anything higher and usable, then it's like, alright, we got a Life Orb Sheer Force user coming into play, that's going to get kind of neat. No, just no viability whatsoever. The 110 hit points on the 70s is effectively a waste, and then you just still find neutral KOs, or you get super effective by everything in the game. Is there a chance there's a moveset here? Sure, we go Agility, and then we have Sheer Force, and then we get a small amount of damage. Probably still need the Focus Sash, unless, I don't know, we mess around with speed tiers too much, and then now we're running Psychic Sheer Force, as we talked about, and it's like, boom, you got that, you find a coverage move. Air Slash, I don't know, man. Air Slash is kind of weird, because like that 5% accuracy actually screws you over from time to time. That base power is nothing, so I mean, like, you need an Air Slash Psychic combo on a 30% chance after you've already, like, set up and you're just sitting at 1 hit point. And you can't flinch anyway because of Sheer Force, so really the only way this Pokemon works is if you get a free Agility turn, and then you go, like, Life Orb, Sheer Force, Psychic on everything. Really, Air Slash only works in Dynamax or on Togekiss because it can get a 60% chance to flinch. After that, it's kind of a sketchy move. Oh, also Fan Rotom. Those are the only viable uses for Air Slash. And then, like, what other moves do we have? We have Terastallization. And then I'm trying to think, is there any kind of other weird way to put together a moveset? 83 attack means those physical options don't really work or make any sense. We have Heat Wave because... So after all that, we're just a worse Pidgeot, and it really says something when Mega Pidgeot didn't even get play, so that's a thing. Do we have any just, like, nonsense? No Encore, just kind of chilling around. Do we have Taunt? No Taunt, so we can't, like, wall break, or not wall break, but, like, anti-set up, and then set up ourselves. And again, there's just better Taunt Pokemon out there, or Encore, or anything else. It's like doubles, Tailwind, there's better everything. That's what I mean, like, we have a Pokemon that was updated off of just a not used Pokemon either. Like, Braviary, I think you would slightly see it from time to time because it could Sheer Force, because it could Defiant, because it could Wall Break. But on higher stats, how is the regional variant just worse in every way? How's that even possible? modern Pokemon design doesn't make any sense. Like, Golden Go Dondozo exist. They give Iron Bundle Encore and just completely screw that up. Garganacl, all these other Pokemon, like, exist. And then you can see with other, like, Generation 8, Generation 9 Pokemon, it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We can't make this thing the most used Pokemon ever, so we're gonna have to dial it back to being just not viable whatsoever. So that's what upsets me the most. I want to see more consistency. I want to see buffs to older Pokemon to make them viable. I want to see new Pokemon not be stupid overpowered. And it's not like a League of Legends philosophy where people are like, but you have to make the new Pokemon overpowered so people buy the game. No, people buy the game for the new Pokemon, and they're going to play with them regardless. And as we've seen with, like, a lot of generations, like, oh, well, 80% of the new Pokemon aren't even competitively viable because the other 20% just overshadow them so hard. So it's careless. And that's how I just describe Pokemon Legends Arceus. Just so careless. And another thing that gets me is that I've done movesets for every Pokemon. I've revisited Pokemon. I've revisited older Pokemon. There's going to be, like, some smartass in the comments like, well, you didn't do a moveset for this Pokemon. At that point, it's a joke or something deliberate. Like, I guess I'm just never touching Obstagoon at this point. And also, I'm going to tell you guys right now, there is absolutely no way I'm going to acknowledge whatever I deleted did not exist. Like, I don't know what that was, so that's not happening. And then what I'm saying is, like, I've seen all this, so it's like, yeah, you go back to an older generation, it's like, yeah, that Pokemon just is not viable. Who's ever going to use Poliwrath? You know, I look at that and you try to make something happen for it and just so outdated. But then when you make, like, a Generation 1, Generation 2 power Pokemon that was never intended to have, like, competitive things in it in modern Pokemon, just doesn't feel right. And even then, like, Dex Filler, I don't like that you just can't have any ability to kind of make a Pokemon interesting or creative, just even from Dex Filler. Like, it should be every Pokemon has viability. That was the philosophy that helped launch this channel. In Pokemon X and Y in Generation 6, you could actually do something with Poliwrath. You could make a cheesy Golduck strategy or use something from Generation 2. But now it's like the power creep of the upper end has gotten so insane, and I think, like, Generation 5 effectively ruined the possibility for, like, a lot of freedom in competitive Pokemon, and Generation 6 made it better, and then Generation 7 I'd consider kind of neutral even though top specs existed, and also the Tapus, and then, like, it's just gotten worse from there. So it's like, it's out of control. So I mean, like, why deliberately make something useless at this point if you've already committed to just, like, invalidating older Pokemon and then not giving them buffs like we saw in Generation 7 is silly. There we go. There's the rant I was holding back for Hisuian Arcanine, but with this, like, that's unacceptable, man. Note for the Hisuian Zoroark video, Comeuppance does not have negative priority for some reason, and I didn't know that, so it's actually trash on Zoroark. That's it. After this, it is done. How to use Hisuian Avalugg. So what's the difference between Hisuian Avalugg and regular Avalugg? Did you catch it? Plus 10 attack, plus 10 speed, minus 10 special attack, minus 10 special defense. We did it, Game Freak. We saved competitive Pokemon. Jokes aside though, Strong Jaw actually a really good ability, and that's going to be the other difference. Like, Avalugg not really getting much out of own tempo. It's really about the sturdy for regular Avalugg because, oh, special attacks are just going to nuke us regardless, and also we're in a fissure meta, and we've kind of always been in a fissure meta, so having sturdy, actually pretty good. But now when we're looking at it, a 127 attack Pokemon. It's just kind of there that also doesn't get KO'd by physical attacks, that now has offensive pressure. We might be able to use Avalugg, because the crazy thing about Avalugg is you look at these stats, it gets access to recover, and then you just go Scarlet with Avalugg, and then, like, this is just the greatest combo. Like, how do you break that? You know, it's Scarlet but better. Problem is, Ice type has a lot of weaknesses, but we can just change that. We Terra Avalugg into something better, potentially something that, like, helps out the Blissey, and then we just beat everything. Problem, if there's an anti-tank Pokemon on the opposing team, it's an anti-tank. It's going to shut down Avalugg and Blissey with the Taunt, with the Haze, with the Whirlwind, with an Encore, with its own kind of, like, setup that power creeps into KOing both of these Pokemon somehow. So yeah, like, we don't really see Avalugg Blissey everywhere. I tried to make Avalugg work, and I just had more fun with other Pokemon. Another thing is, like, why run Avalugg when I'm just having too much of a blast on Hippowdon? And going back to Generation 6, Coffee Table was one of the OG guides that helped launch this channel, but also, I just liked using Avalugg, and then one of my fans early on went, yo, why don't you use Hippo? It's better Snorlax. What blasphemy is this? that there's a better Snorlax out there. Oh, it turns out, yeah, like you just go stockpile and then it has the slack off and then you can just kind of do whatever you want and win the game, and Fissure's pretty cool. So yeah, like, Avalugg never really worked out. Even with like this devastating combo, something is going to go wrong, especially in Battle Stadium, where now 2/3 of your team is just like the biggest taunt bait. Generation 6, 7, most of 8, that didn't matter. But now, we are in the most hateful tank meta, so we actually need a Pokemon with offensive pressure. And you go, Strong Jaw, Adamant, max hit points. Oh, we just don't get KO'd physical, and now we actually have, like, threat. And now we're getting into that damage theory that we kind of have been discovering. Even though it's always existed in Pokemon, there really weren't too many good examples of Pokemon that could just go Choice Band, Choice Specs, and then break down everything with one-hit KOs. Like, banded wall breaking, yeah, that was a thing, but for some reason never really got this application that we're seeing now and the reliability to where a Pokemon like Lamora is kind of insane, and we just apply that theory to other Pokemon, like, oh, we just win. Now, we will have to Terrastallize this Pokemon, because my goodness, that is one of the worst types we've ever seen. 2 4x weaknesses, 6 weaknesses total. Yeah, what else are you going to expect from Ice and Rock? Oh, it's ugly. I mean, like, Ice already just not that great, and 4 weaknesses feels like too much. 6, and then a couple of, like, double weaknesses, and you don't get anything in return. Ice, Poison, Flying, Normal. Nah, this thing's definitely going to get Terrastallized if you have any hope of using it. As for the signature move, what is this? We have one of the slowest Pokemon in existence with a move that has a 30% chance to cause the opponent to flinch. Now, 100 base power, 85 accuracy, I guess there's like some kind of damage calculation here, but you're not really going to be getting that. Trick Room's a thing, but Trick Room strats, pretty niche, generally doubles only, and is this the Pokemon that you want to get on your Trick Room team, especially with a 15% chance to miss? I mean, Icicle Crash already carries its own, like, shenanigans, and we don't even get the Icicle Crash. That's kind of weird. I mean, Avalugg gets the Icicle Crash, but 15 more power for 5% less accuracy when the base is also imperfect. Alright, it's just power crept Icicle Crash on the, whatever, Mountain Gale. But do we really get any usage out of it? Not really. Also, weird thing is, Ice Fang is effectively going to 50% into the same amount of damage, but Ice Fang is pretty weak, even with the Strong Jaw, even with all the comboing, so we're going to see how that plays out. What else do we get? Crunch. Do we have the Jaw Lock? We're all Jaw! How do we not lock it? I don't know. But at least we have Crunch, and then, my goodness, our coverage is terrible and doesn't really make too much sense. I'm guessing Heavy Slam is going to be better than the Iron Head. Again, since we're not flinching, just damage on top of damage is going to be it. Earthquake is good. Body Press is good. I guess that means we're going to have to see what works here the best. Alright, so Ice, Dark, Steel, going to have 34 not very effective hits. We splash in the ground. Perfect coverage. We splash in the fighting. Perfect coverage. What's Ice Fighting Dark? That's going to be 4. So yeah, any combination, I guess, depending on the meta, but a big thing is, like, Fighting Dark, going to cover for a lot, and then we have Stab, so that's going to be pretty good, and we start running out of moves. I'm trying to think here, like, why do we have Rock when there's no Rock-type move that works with Strong Jaw? How is that not the signature move? Why do we get slightly better Icicle Crash instead of, like, some kind of rock-biting move? I guess it doesn't matter because we have to Terra off of this awful typing, and Mono Terra Rock really isn't a thing. So, yeah, we can run whatever. But now let's go and see what happens with the damage. So we throw down the Ice Fang, we have the ability Strong Jaw, we go Choice Band, and we just kind of build up this Pokemon into all of the pieces. Go into Silvally, drop it down to level 50. We got a lot of stuff to figure out here, and then our damage is pretty good. Like, that's a 65 base power move, and we almost one-hit KO a Silvally with it. Terra Ice means we kick over the damage, but we can also just kind of do the same. Actually, this is where things get interesting. So let's go Crunch, and then let's transition Crunch into that, and that puts us at 101. So we just become, like, Dark 80 with all of this extra stuff going on, compared to if we had the ice for 110. I mean, the math makes sense, but it doesn't really feel like the math makes sense, because this is going to be 2x, so 130. This is going to be 1.5x, so 120. I guess it's just one of those things. You think about the punch moves, you think about the fang moves, and the base power is so low it can't be salvaged, but actually, Terra Ice is going to salvage it, but that's just a bad typing. Like, we don't want those vulnerabilities. Terra Dark, just Mono Dark is going to be good, and then we still have, like, damage around, and then we have our super effective hits, and again, we clean it up with the rest of the coverage. Now let's see how this actually plays out in practice. So Body Press is going to not be as insane as you might think, because max invested 127 is pretty much the same as uninvested 184. So we actually lose Stab, and we lose the Strong Jaw, so a super effective Body Press less than our neutral Crunch. Our neutral Crunch into a 115.92 has a higher chance to KO than not KO, and it's on to something like Baxcalibur. Now we're doing this because we are the bulkiest anti-physical Pokemon, and a Banded Glaive Rush is a 2-hit KO. So this is going to be some of the highest damage possible. Choice Band 145, 120 base power stab, and we absorb it. So that's like what you want. You need to be a 3-4 hit KO Pokemon, and you can kind of respond to anything. Problem is, you don't get to hard switch into the Baxcalibur and then pull some shenanigans, but it shows like, yeah, we're doing our job. We survive, we go Terra Dark, and then we just Strong Jaw Choice Band one-shot everything. I tried to put in the Heavy Slam, but apparently Baxcalibur, too fat, doesn't really matter. So yeah, like you just go Terra Dark, and you crunch your way through everything. Let's see how we go against a Banded Scizor. So we drop this down to level 50, and whoa! We KO Scizor a lot. That's very surprising. So pretty much max hit points, max attack. If there's more speed creep on the Scizor, and then it gets more frail, that's going to make things even more beneficial for us. And it doesn't even super effective KO us on the close combat. And if it's already locked into Bullet Punch, it actually just doesn't do anything. And if it's Terra Steel Bullet Punch Choice Band, it's a 3-hit KO. So that's what I mean. I like the bulky Choice Band damage amp Terra 1-hit KO theory. Again, like we see on the Glimmora, to where if the opponent has mostly physical Pokemon, like you bring in your Blissey to deal with their special attackers, and like maybe you sack off or you trade Blissey, and then Avalugg comes in as revenge, because even though you are a 3-hit KO Pokemon into some like the most fierce and potentially super effective hits, you don't want to waste that turn. So you sack off a Pokemon, take a hit KO, take a hit KO, they're down to like a special attacker or something, Avalugg goes down, and now you have like a beneficial 1v1 scenario. So you just back this up with a priority sweeper, or just a really fast, untouchably fast Pokemon, or some kind of like Focus Sash that also has priority to back it up, and just like anti any opposing Pokemon that would be a special attacker into Avalugg, and then you win. Also, might not even need to be Blissey. You could have something like a Ting Lu with an Assault Vest, or a King Gambit with an Assault Vest, where you can switch in, take a special hit, and then still be like survive 2 more hits or something, trade with the opponent, and then this is like the ultimate revenge. I will KO you if you're not a special attacking Pokemon. But also, that means they have to give up the Pokemon. You can't switch in a special attacker into this Crunch. The Crunch is hitting everything, and it's definitely going to obliterate a frail little special attacking Pokemon that usually has more delicate defenses. So we just have a completely different identity Pokemon compared to the Avalugg, and it's also to the point where if you want to run Recover, potential Mirror Coat, some kind of like Iron Defense setup, or Body Press Pokemon, you just do it on Avalugg. If you want to play Hisuian Avalugg, you need to go offenses. You need to exploit this ability with the other tools that were given to Avalugg, so you're actually just not like a Sustain, Skarmbliss, Skarmory, just keep recovering and then set up against physical Pokemon and just be unkillable against physical Pokemon. No, like, this just tanks and hits, and you're the ultimate bruiser Pokemon. And as we talked about, the Heavy Slam doesn't really come through on the damage, and Body Press doesn't really come through on the damage either, so I don't know. Is there a world where you need the Stone Edge, and maybe it's like this, you just lose the game without it, 80% chance you win on some weird scenario? I don't know. Again, we pretty much one-shot every special attacker with this, so it's not like, oh, but then we still have the Mirror Coat for the thing that does 90% to us, or we just Choice Band Crunch, and we survive the special attack anyways, and we don't have to play those games. I really don't know what to put in that last slot, though, because like we showed, the 80 base power just gets outscaled by the 2.25, even on super effective hits, and that's just like a weird aspect of the game. I don't know. Body Slam, 30% chance to paralyze, 25% chance for full paralysis on some situation where Avalug's coming in and not banded into anything, and like you just have to do it to him. But yeah, this might be a Pokemon I consider picking up, and you just run it differently. Like, that was a weird thing, trying to let go of an Avalugg, let go of an Orthworm, let go of Sustainy, full defensive Pokemon. Because if you're thinking about a moveset like this, I think Corviknight's just always better, right? Or usually, mostly always better. So, but then you get into the same problem. Like, a Pokemon that stops Body Press, like a Ghost type, or just some kind of other weird setup Pokemon you find yourself against, that's going to stop everything. So you can just kind of run whatever, but letting go of those Pokemon on team just kind of feels awkward. With this, yeah, you just splash this in and you just body everything. And it means I don't have to give up the Assault Vest that I have on my King Gambit, so we're just winning. Really, my only question is, did Game Freak make a mistake here? Because the weird thing is, a lot of modern Pokemon just have very reduced movesets and are almost designed to only have 1.5 viable movesets. That way, maybe Game Freak can't miss anything. But I think they missed here because they put Mountain Gale. Doesn't have any interactions, and then it's just an Avalugg with 50% more damage. And apparently you just ban that and then you survive everything and win. I don't know. It's weird, but it's a fun looking Pokemon. So guys, enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much. Avalanche Blast? Just for that more damage, because this is more damage? I don't know. Later, guys.